Hey guys, we are once again back with some more Danganronpa 0.
Yeah,
In the last part,
should be
we
fun.
felt the ultimate despair as Junko and Ashima picked her mate, and it wasn't us. It wasn't
Well,
us.
I mean, you say it wasn't us, but like, we're spending a good amount of the story as Matsuda. To be fair,
I know, but it's not us.
fair.
But yeah, there should be 2 more episodes if I'm not mistaken. 2 more
Yeah,
videos.
the plan's to grind it out next time, no matter how long it takes. Hopefully.
Yeah, so we're getting close to the climax, despite what the percentile says there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So the
I'm
goal
really
today, if possible, the goal is to go 4 chapters, and then grind out the last
I'm really
6 or 7 next time.
I'm really curious if we're gonna, we're getting close now. I'm curious if we're gonna see any new slash familiar faces from DR1. I feel like the only one that even has a semblance of a possibility anymore is Byakuya. Other than that, I don't feel like any more's happening, with the exception being obviously Junko and Kyoko, since she's still in the background doing her research on the tragedy of Hope's Peak with the boy with Jin hiring her to do that and doing his own investigation. But yeah, aside from that, I feel like we're pretty much done with the Hope's Peak group.
Yeah, I think it's so
So,
crazy that like chapter 5 was so nuts, and then somehow chapter
Bro,
6.
it's just flipping
Yeah,
back.
yeah. It's just because it's like it's crazy to me to think that chapter 5 was so nuts, and when we finished chapter 5, I was like, damn, I really went another chapter. Like I'm like really curious what's in this next one, and then chapter 6 was just the best thing ever. So yeah, it's gonna be hard
We
to beat
felt
that,
the
but
ultimate despair.
we really did.
As
I feel
Junko
like
is not ours.
I feel like for the first time we truly understood what ultimate despair really is.
Yes.
Nothing in the world's ended. Junko kissing a man
But
in front of us, that's true despair.
I mean, here's the thing, but like, the world's ended, but I'm trapped in a school with Celestia Ludenberg, Kyoko Kirigiri, and Junko Inashima. This might not
Well,
be that bad.
I mean, that was the situation, but that isn't the situation anymore, unfortunately.
Fuck! Why'd you have to fuck it up, Makoto? We had
Honestly,
it good. We had
bro,
it good.
bro lost like 2/3 of the Trinity. Now all he's got is the detective.
I mean, she's not bad, but like, fuck. It's still 2/3.
Yeah, and like lest we forget Celeste, who you have gone on and on about your love of, and Junko, who I've gone on and on about my love of, and so like even then it's like really Kyoko, that was the pick.
Well, we are meant to leave in despair in this series, so...
Yeah, they can give us a little hope because there always has to be a little hope so we could fall into despair even more. But hey, it's still going to be mostly despair.
If I was, if I had, if I had money, I'd, fucking dedicate, an artist to, for the final episode of this, I'd, commission some art of just, me simping over Celeste and you simping over Junko.
That would be
For,
really
the
funny.
final part.
That would be really funny, Danganronpa co-art of sorts.
I don't know the exact detail on how that would look, but I thought that'd be pretty funny.
Well, I mean, yeah, you'd be one of the you'd be a vampire butler.
What is it?
Obviously,
It's just...
and I don't know what I would be.
It's just
I guess
the
a
trap of the
despair.
VN girls. I don't know
Dude,
how it
dude,
happened.
VNs
with,
are so
3
good,
VNs,
man. I
but
don't
it's
care
just
what
the trap of the VN girls.
I've talked about this in VNs that VNs are low key. I've talked about this with a friend too. VNs are just low key like good VNs are so hard to beat. I don't know what it is, but when they're good, they hit. And that includes the girls in them as well. But I mean kind of overall, on all 4 fronts. It's just such a great medium that just perfectly mixes the concept of a book with the concept.
And I haven't
show
even
in
seen
the
the full context of one of them in the actual VN.
True. Anyways,
That's just the abridged version that they got,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
I am all ready to go.
At that moment, I woke up out of the blue. As my consciousness returned to me, I couldn't help but feel completely refreshed. Ah, thank goodness, I said aloud without realizing. For a long time, perhaps, I was having an awful nightmare. But now it was over. I was finally free of my long-lasting nightmare. Or maybe not? Somehow it felt like this place also belonged in my nightmare. Because if that wasn't the case, then why else would I be in this room? The walls, the ceiling, the floor, everything was covered with concrete. I saw no sign of doors or windows. So, why would I be in such a strange room? Where am I? At the very least, I was certain this place wasn't my room. No matter how forgetful I could be, I knew I would never live in such an eerie room without a good reason for doing so. Don't tell me I've been arrested or something. Arrested. My words bounced off the cold, gray concrete. I thought for a moment that I could hear a man coming to my room, feet stomping with an aggressive thump. But it was really just the monster we call loneliness. That was weirdly, philosophical.
Trying to
feel
remember.
like
I think...
Yeah?
Yeah, we ended off with her just passing out in the cafeteria, didn't we?
Yeah.
There was nothing after
she
that.
She was around a bunch of people, and then suddenly she was passing out, and Junko was talking to her. I don't know if she got drugged and it was she was hallucinating, or if she lost track of where she actually was, because it was weird because she was around a bunch of people.
With the boy.
Yeah, she was with Kamishiro. Kamishiro left, and then all of a sudden she was passing out, and Junko was talking to her. So it was very strange, and we don't really know what happened exactly.
This ultimate despair girl, man.
So I mean, it could have been she could have lost track of where she was. She could have hallucinated that. Maybe Mukuro did something really weird as Junko. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. All we know is she passed out and she heard Junko talking to her right before she passed out.
Well, that's a good way to.
I don't remember if she saw Junko or not, though. Probably
not.
Arrested. My words bounced. Oh yeah. I said that line. Where's the exit? It was then that I sat up quickly and realized I had been sleeping on a bed. It had a pretty pink princess-style canopy with the sort of antique feel that any little girl would have wanted. But oddly enough, it was standing alone in the middle of a bare concrete room. The contrast between the delicate decorations of the bed and the cold, dark walls only added to the overall creepiness of the room. In addition, there was more that this room was certainly missing. If this room were perfectly complete, then it would have had furniture and a door, but it was absolutely missing these things. As I quickly finished...
It's funny how she's she described it as a pretty pink princess. And we know another character that likes pretty pink princesses.
Yafumi?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't forgetting someone.
No, I meant Tagami, obviously.
I mean, I'm sure he would prefer a pretty pink princess over what he's stuck with. As I quickly finished analyzing my surroundings, the monster I spoke of earlier began its work. My fear and anxiety turned to pitch-black tar, seeming to steal my freedom of movement.
Oh!
Well, no, this is still...
Is it
Ryoko.
her?
Yeah, it says a moan snuck past my trembling lips. Oh! Yeah,
well,
I know.
I didn't read
so
far ahead.
I know, it's so long. The room's outline and shape started to slowly distort. Tears welled up in my eyes. But it's no use crying over this situation. It's no use to cry. I held out for dear life, and despite my intention to hold them back, the tears that had gathered in my eyes began spilling out.
Good.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Just go ahead. It's weird, but go ahead.
All right. This sounds playful. Good morning, madam.
I don't know. It's framed pretty normal. Ah! Startled, I realized there was a maid standing next to the wall. Okay, so it's a woman.
Good morning, madam.
It really is a girl, I thought as the voice called out. I could see the girl's face among her clothes, but only the mask that obscured it. Due to the mask, it was impossible for me to know her actual appearance. The mask in question was an eerie bear mask, which filled me with dread. The right half was a cute white bear. The left half was an evil black bear.
Oh my, I picked the right voice for this one.
I don't know if you did, but she's definitely something. The girl wearing maid clothing faced me and spoke to me in a polite and cheerful tone. There you go. Polite and cheerful is what we're going for, apparently.
Good morning, madam. I prepared some tea for your morning routine.
Yeah, that's probably moron.
What is this, the ultimate maid?
Potentially an ultimate maid that might be a despair as well.
Sure.
Or it could just be a maid that has, that is a servant. This almost by default has to be a servant of Junko of some kind. I don't think I'm your
really
madam.
The ultimate
that's a good point. Oh, I didn't even click on that. This maid that's wearing a Monokuma mask is referring to Ryuko as Madame, which is a very formal title that you usually would call a superior. So that is a good point from Ryuko. I don't think I'm your madam. The girl didn't appear to hear me. Rather, she simply walked over and held the silver tray in her hands out to me. Atop the tray was a floral patterned teacup. Steam rose from the cup, disappearing into the air. Thank you. My throat was parched after waking up and was in desperate need of moisture. Forgetting all prior caution, I picked up the teacup and drank from it. Too cold, disgusting, so weak. Incredibly, it was a 3-time loser.
A critic now, are we?
The tea was unsalvageable. Unable to hide my expression, I placed the teacup back on the tray. Let me guess.
Okay, you really are starting to sound like a certain gothic Leisha.
So it's funny because I love that. So the tea intentionally looks like it's steaming hot, and you drink it, and it's cold, disgusting, and super weak. So I assume even the tea is meant to bring you despair.
How do you make a tea steam while being ice cold?
There's obviously some sort of gimmick to it. It obviously wasn't steaming. It just looked like it was steaming. So there was some trick to it.
What the hell did they put in her?
Oh, here you go. Picture.
That looks like an ultimate maid to me. God,
There's certainly
damn.
a chance. I mean, they look pretty nice. They have long black hair. So that's the one thing of note here, long black hair. If this character ever comes up, or if we ever make a connection here, it's someone with long black hair. And a woman.
I like how it even looks like the teacups have faces on them.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like flowers, but...
Yeah, but from this angle, it looks like that.
Interesting. So we got a picture of this maid.
That's our first ever Monokuma merch without it being just Monokuma.
This is the first time Monokuma's come up in the story outside of the cover.
That is beyond terrifying.
Well, we've seen the Monokuma or versions of Monokuma masks in DR1 when she shows the I
know, but this is just disturbing.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is us seeing it in like a actual context at the very least.
I shall be taking my leave now.
The bear maid said as she turned on her heel and began to walk away. Wait, where are you going? I quickly called out.
What was that?
As the bear maid asked me to repeat myself, she knocked on the wall before her. Just like some sort of ninja temple, after she knocked once, the wall rotated to reveal an exit. A hidden door?
At the time when we built this facility, we wanted to adhere to Madam's sense of playfulness.
I mean... Okay. I mean, I would assume by Madam in this case, we're not referring to Ryuko, but most likely Junko. Interesting,
It's kind of the thing Junko would play with?
Potentially. I mean, it's hard to really know, but it's probably that thing, because she gets bored of everything so easily, so it being...
That's fair.
This place being like a psychotic maze does sound very Junko-esque. That's the thing. Can we talk about for a second the fact that we are literally most likely in Junko's, like, ultimate despair headquarters or something? Like, how in the world did Ryoko get here? And two, like, this is, even that aside, that this is crazy if we're actually gonna see, like, Junko's, like, for lack of a better term, base of operations.
Honestly.
Like, that's not something I actually expected to ever see in any context, to be perfectly honest. The playfulness
We'll see
is
how far
fine,
it goes.
but I'm leaving. I raised my voice, feeling desperate.
Just because you want to leave doesn't mean you should leave.
That's also interesting, because it's not saying necessarily that you can't leave, but just that you shouldn't leave. Huh? This time it was my own head tilting in confusion. Even if I want to leave, I can't? What the hell? Am I being confined here?
Confined? Confinement? That's a bit of a stretch.
The barmaid's shoulders shook with laughter. Oh, okay, yeah, this is still you.
My apologies. Just because I appear to be doesn't mean I am laughing.
I didn't...
On the contrary, I'm filled with sadness beyond compare.
Your shoulders shook more.
I am saddened because you have you're such an interesting person. I'm afraid I cannot make a sense of your jokes. As it is currently, I don't think I've ever fulfilled my dream of having Monokuma leaving everything to me. How sad. And we've name-dropped Monokuma.
I don't even know what to make of that. This is really weird. The barmaid hunched over, looking heartbroken. I don't think I understand, but for the time being, how do I get out of here? Can you show me? As I prompted her, the girl moved toward the hidden door. I glanced around the room to find my bag beside my bed. Sorry, wait a second. I quickly left the bed and picked up my bag. Its weight felt familiar. There was no mistaking it. It was indeed mine. Okay, so whoever took her here, Junko or otherwise, left her with her stuff.
Well, of course, they're not monsters.
True. Now, time to get out of here, I said, pushing the barmaid to the side as I left the room of concrete behind me. Damn.
What an idiot.
What awaited me outside the room was a strange sight. It was a wide space that seemed like a hall, but just like the previous room, its ceiling, walls, and floor were all covered in nothing but concrete. However, despite the width of the room, the ceiling was very low, making me feel like I was caged. A fluorescent light hung from the ceiling, so this might be underground somewhere. Very low ceiling, potentially. Conserving space in that sense. Illuminating the concrete, which only added to the sheer bleakness of the space. Filling the room were around 50 legs belonging to school desks, all evenly spaced throughout. At each desk sat a person, various men and women, all wearing the same school uniform. Okay, so a bunch of people, I assume, from Hope's Peak. On their faces, again, they all wore bear masks. The right half, a cute white bear. The left half, an evil black bear.
That is disturbing.
So I'm gonna take a guess, based on what we've heard up to this point. These are probably mostly, if not all, Reserve Corps students.
Possibly, yeah.
Because we know that Junko has incited the Reserve Corps students into their protests, quote unquote. Perhaps it goes a little deeper than that. So that's another possibility, is that the maid is I guess a Reserve Corps student potentially. Hey, that bear sure seems popular, doesn't it? The maid next to me, wearing the same mask, answered simply.
That is not a bear. That is Monokuma.
Monokuma? I didn't really care about the name in the least. All I could see was many men and women all seated at school desks wearing the same school uniform with the same creepy masks. There was almost nothing else I could focus on other than the strange scene in front of me. One of the few things I could notice was that in front of the Monokuma heads at each and every desk were monitors. The masked heads all stared at the monitors as though they were hungry enough to eat them. From where I stood, I could only see the backs of the monitors. I had no idea what kind of video was playing, but all the same, the heads appeared to be focusing their full attention to them. They were motionless, staring patiently at the monitors with all the vitality of a mannequin. I, on the other hand, felt like I had found myself in an empty graveyard. That's... And we were talking about... Like, that almost makes it sound like there's hypnotism going on here or something. Like, brainwashing.
That would be... Yeah, or a cult.
I mean, it's all in the same vein, I guess. Like, whether there's brainwashing or they're just like... I mean, actually, whether it's brainwashing or just cult behavior, either way, there's a decent chance the screen involves either Monokuma or Junko.
I mean, Junko would be a nice reason to be that focused, but...
What are these people? As I asked Tim, it did describe them as being hungry enough to eat the monitors, so maybe it is Junko. Mm-hmm. That's wild if that is the connection there. What are these people? As I asked timidly, the Monokuma maid answered with a serious tone.
We are mutants. Everyone is oppressed, and so we buried ourselves away.
You had to?
We wanted to.
Instead of hoping for better?
Please listen. Mutants are very capable, and for the most part, we have not been oppressed. On the other hand, we believe it to be a waste if we didn't hold ourselves back. We would like to experience oppression in some form too.
What the fuck?
Huh?
Yikes. I couldn't... Okay, so maybe this isn't the reserve course. I don't know. I mean, and they school uniforms, but they haven't made any indication as to whether their hopes peak or not, or anything like that. I couldn't understand what the girl was saying at all. For the time being, I instead tried to change the topic. By the way, I was wondering where this place is.
I was waiting for that. This is our secret society, of course.
Huh? Secret society? Her words seemed too childish, and the childishness too unexpected. For a moment, I doubted her and thought it was some kind of metaphor, but no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't think of any other meaning for her words. She must have been entirely literal. A secret society, though? No one does that stuff anymore. A secret society for mutants? That's absurd.
Surely you mean absurdly cool? I should mention too, us mutants all belong to the reserve course. This is the reserve course's secret society.
Okay, I was right the first time. That's what I thought at first, and then I thought I was wrong. Okay, yeah. The reserve course? Finally, something I could believe was true. I feel like the mention was an important clue in our conversation, so I took out Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook out of my bag and looked for any memories about the reserve course. I found it. I remembered. The reserve course is... I don't really know. All I had written in my notebook was that it existed and nothing else. Couldn't be helped. I would have to ask about it directly. Have the people from the reserve course always known about this?
Not always. If they did, then our secret society wouldn't be so secret anymore. A secret society must act as a secret society. And so it must also move as a secret society.
Yeah, you could
Stop
tell.
saying secret society.
So see, if it's not mimicking, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a brainwashing element in there, because there's moments like that where it starts to sound like Monokuma, exactly. And that's interesting to say the least. So yeah, this definitely, again, we don't know for sure, but this definitely puts a whole nother spin on a lot of this.
What resources do you have, Junko?
But it's weird because, like, it almost, like, in some ways it's like it takes away from her her ability, but it also kind of makes sense that, like, realistically speaking, you know, if she can use her charisma to get people to a certain point, and then she literally breaks their minds the rest of the way. I could buy that being part of the process of turning people into whatever the fuck this is. Especially
maybe that's what she tried to Ryoko, but it didn't work.
Especially for the basics.
Too smart.
Maybe. Especially for the basic potatoes.
It's like it's because her ultimate involves her mind, so like her mind moves at such a different course compared to most people that it just fucked her up.
Sure, that's
Gave her
possible.
amnesia instead of brainwashing her.
I mean, all that is like fine and all. The reason why that's hard. The problem with that theory is that just feels too coincidental to Matsuda. Like the Matsuda part of that equation feels too
Well, we haven't learned what his connection to Junko is yet, so...
We don't, unless he was involved and like he was doing it with Junko or something. Like if that was part of it, then sure. But it's not the vibe I'm getting. But it's possible.
he did show his when we first met him, he showed disdain for what was happening to the reserve course, didn't he?
Yeah, he seemed to. It seemed to be, but he also there was definitely some of that like the elitist side came out a little bit of like, you know. But he seemed like he wasn't a fan, but at the same time, it was kind of like, to some extent, a little bit of that, it's a little beneath me kind of thing, too. But that it could get dangerous. He didn't seem that
Fair
into
enough.
it, though. So it's like, hard to tell. But that's the thing, right? His interaction with Junko really didn't help us figure out what his relationship to Junko is. Because he clearly showed, A, that he doesn't like Junko, and B, that he has some connection to Junko, and clearly, despite not liking Junko, Junko has a hold over him to some extent. So there's a weird relationship there that's still unclear.
Yeah.
Anyways. But to have a whole base here, you can't keep it a secret, can you?
I must insist you refrain from saying such things.
Monokuma Maid suddenly sounded angry.
I have yet to hear anyone claim of our existence. Here in the basement beneath the West District, we have quietly and silently created our secret society. Do you understand?
The West District. It's also interesting. I get that she forgets everything, but it's still interesting that we're telling Ryuko all of this.
It's almost like we need her to come back here later.
Something like that.
It is most suitable for a secret society, due to the fact that the reserve students and staff are located in the West District. The regular staff do not visit anywhere near as much as they would otherwise. Therefore, there is little extracurricular activity here. Clubs meet in their club rooms. The location of the basement of the club room belonging to a now defunct mystery student group. Study group. That makes it more opportune.
Interesting. So, wait. So in the West District, beneath an abandoned club room belonging to an inactive mystery study group, there is a basement, and that's this place? I looked around again. The sense of being trapped in the wide hall hung low in my stomach. However, there were several doors throughout the chamber, with what seemed to be another small room at the back of the hall. Across the hall's width and diagonal to me was the entrance to another passageway, one that seemed to be fairly long. I couldn't see its end at all. Can such a large basement really be underground here?
You don't believe it? It seems to be so much easier to not believe me. That's why it isn't despairing.
Despair. As I said it, I could feel something in the depths of my heart become uneasy. What a foul word. There's something here. She had a reaction to the word despair.
I feel like Junko said it to her before, though.
I know, but to be fair, Junko wasn't saying despair over and over again, shockingly. So, like, it's still interesting that word
That's fair.
Gets a reaction out of her like that. Instead, I tried to shake it off quickly and ask the next question that had come to mind. Anyway, I understand that you're a secret society, and I understand that this is your secret base, but why are you a secret society to begin with? Despite her face being concealed by the mask, the Monokuma maid seemed surprised. A moment later, she answered me matter-of-factly.
The parade.
I muttered quietly as I flicked through my notebook. The parade is a demonstration from the reserve students who felt dissatisfied with Hope's Peak Academy's education system, right?
It's not a demonstration. It's a revelation.
Revolution.
Revolution.
The girl corrected me forcefully.
It's a revolution. Isn't it so exciting? It's a revolution to change Hope's Peak Academy and the world. My heart's racing just thinking about it.
Okay, so they know. I mean, they probably don't know the specifics if I had to guess, but they understand that what they're doing has, at least the plan is for it to have far-reaching consequences. A revolution?
Yeah.
What did this person just say?
Oh, this is me.
Yeah.
In order for the revolution to be complete, we must destroy Hope's Peak Academy's perfect little fantasy world. This school shoves it way toward Hope, all the while tormenting and harassing its surroundings. If this continues, this school's ultimate hope will never be crushed, and oh, the ultimate hope came up again. Is there an ultimate hope in this school?
It's interesting. Wait a second, I interrupted, feeling as though I had missed something. What's the ultimate hope?
Oh! Are you trying to test me with your words, aren't you? It's quite alright. I'll answer your question in flawless fashion.
Yeah, there's definitely, like... There seems to be, like, a bit of probably this girl's original personality, if I had to guess, and then there's, like, shades of Junko and there's shades of Monokuma. There's definitely, like, whether it's mimicking or brainwashing or what, there's definitely an interesting thing there. I wonder why she's taking all this time to talk about such an apparently important matter. I mean, if their society is so secret, then they shouldn't be openly talking like this, right? Maybe, but maybe you're one of the ringleaders, Ryuko, and you just don't even know it. Because...
Your memory wipe got fucked.
So these are all like drones, basically. These are like the low-level Junko slaves, for lack of a better term. So this wouldn't necessarily be ultimate despair, per se. This is just... like Junko's simps, for lack of a better term, slaves, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of the difference. Like, you know, Ryuko is either a despair that doesn't remember, or potentially is being groomed to be one. But that's like on another
something
level
like
compared
that,
to this, right? Because like Ryuko has actual like a much larger value to Junko than, you know, random students would, right?
Well, she's going to take a lot more effort to get into this.
Sure.
Most likely because of her talent.
Sure. And her mental state actually does kind of make it a little bit weirder as well. But in all the extra talking the Monokuma maid was doing, she seemed very happy that someone was listening to her story.
Ahem. The ultimate hope is the absolute talent which surpasses all other talent. A genius among geniuses. The pinnacle of human evolution, so to speak. Yes, that is the ultimate hope. Well, that doesn't describe Makoto at all.
Keep going.
Ta-da! That was my flawless explanation.
So, yeah, that's the thing, right? So, the description...
I guess that explains her reaction to Kyoko giving him that in DR1.
Well, that's the thing, right? So, like, ultimate hope, if we take it in the sense, like, in Makoto, it's meant in the literal sense. This is describing ultimate hope as in the savior of humanity, essentially, right? Which makes them the hope of humanity. So...
that still might apply to him.
Sure, but in a different way. Like I said, not because he's a genius, but because he is the physical manifestation of hope, which is a little different. This is ultimate hope in a less literal sense, it seems like, which means that I can only think of two people that this could really refer to. The most likely answer being Izuru Kamakura, our mystery demon potato.
That might not even exist.
That might not even exist. And the only other person that I'd even put on the list is Ryuko herself. Because, I mean, arguably... Now, I feel like we're talking about something that goes a lot beyond her talent. This feels like even more, like way more ridiculous than Ryuko's talent. However, I could see a world where you could make a case for Ryuko in that regard.
Well, let's not undermine her talent.
Yeah, her talent's crazy. So that's why
crazy.
I want to mention her. I'm assuming that we're talking about Izuru, but I think Ryuko's the other possibility.
Fair enough.
Because it does feel like Junko seems to be implying that the whole, like, that these feel to be two separate things. Like, her interest in this whole, like, Izuru thing and her interest in Ryuko, they're both her goals, but they seem to be going in different directions. Anyways, I'm sorry, I stopped paying attention.
What? Seriously? Oh, anyway.
Girl crossed her arms and groaning for a moment as she spoke up once more.
What a rude bitch.
Honestly.
I'm ready now.
Alright, focus.
The hope we use in the Ultimate Hope's definition is a little different from the everyday use of the word. What we call hope refers to a talent so great it can be called the hope of humanity.
There you go.
In other words, what we call the Ultimate Hope is the owner of the most superior talent.
So then you mean an incredible genius?
But talented in every way possible.
A perfect superhuman? But isn't that cheating?
Well, I suppose it does sound unbelievable.
So yeah, we're implying that there's someone... I mean, the way they're describing it, they are literally describing the idea... I mean, they're essentially describing it as someone... I mean, this is such a weird... We're really getting into that weird level, but
fit Junko's description?
I mean, she did describe herself as the perfectly... What was it? The perfectly hopeless ultimate being? Something like that. Well, I guess that would make
the ultimate hope and the ultimate despair.
No, but I think what I was gonna say with that, right? So think about the way that in the sentence at the line at the top of the top of this page, they describe hope refers to a talent so great it could be called the hope of humanity. So you could flip that with Junko with the ultimate despair title as a talent so great it could be called the despair of humanity. So I feel like in that sense, you could actually argue that Junko's meaning of despair is actually like the reverse of this. So this is quite because that's the difference, right? Like Makoto and Junko aren't really mirrors of each other because Makoto is average and Junko is extraordinary, right? And like that's part of what makes Makoto compelling is the fact that he's normal. That's like the whole point is like it doesn't really matter if you're special or not, because we're all special and all that bullshit. But in this case, we're literally kind of talking of like the antithesis of Junko, not in the sense of morality, but purely in the sense of like this just ultimate talent. That's essentially what this, by ultimate hope, they really mean they basically are kind of saying the ultimate.
I swear they even said that in the first game.
Someone that's essentially like perfect. I mean, certainly the closest thing to perfect at the very least. Because I mean, they're implying talented in every way. Like they basically would have ultimate level talent in all things.
Byakuya
would say that he is, but
he did.
Yeah, but
many
like
times.
Actually though, which doesn't
interest him.
Which is certainly interesting, but anyways, the Monokuma maid sounded mildly offended. It's... Wait, who's talking? I don't know who's talking. I think it's me. I think?
Yeah, because it's like something out of a comic, but it sounds like she's just taking the piss out of it.
No, this is her. I had to read the whole thing.
Oh, alright.
I could tell it's her.
It's like something out of a comic book. Hope's Peak Academy's mascot has been given so much goddamn VIP treatment that they're basically on a silver platter outside of our reach. He'd be cheating by anyone's standards.
Okay, so like again, we still don't know if this Izuru is real, but by this description, this is that would line up if this. Because again, Izuru presumably killed a bunch of kids and is still, like, fine. Like, because if that is what indeed happened, the school is covering this up because this person is, like, so talented that they see them as literally, like, the hope of humanity. Which could also be why they've hid their existence, because they want to protect them.
More than likely,
even
we're going
prior,
to see that.
Aren't you
This
angry?
is not going to have a good ending. We're going to see this come crashing down.
Most
this is
likely.
what comes with the with the benefit of hindsight, Junko did play her plan out, so obviously,
I mean, yeah,
whatever
at the
this
very
ultimate
least,
hope
we know
is
that,
gonna
like,
fail.
yeah, nobody's... Well, that's the thing, though, right? If the ultimate... That's the weird thing about this Izuru, is, like, this Izuru is just, like, a phantom in the mist. It's so weird. Like, the Izuru thing definitely, if anything, felt like setup for, like, future content, it would be the Izuru thing. Maybe Ryuko as well, but, like, this Izuru thing is, like, it almost feels like we're... I don't even know if we're gonna... At this point, I'm starting to wonder if we're even gonna get an answer exactly. Like, obviously we're gonna learn something about Izuru, but it's, like, so... It's just so weird. Like, I don't know. I'm so curious what the final... Where we are with that whole thing by the end of this. Because it's, like, relevant to the story, but it is, like, kind of in the background still. I mean, this is still at its core Ryuko and Matsuda's story. Aren't you... Yeah, aren't you angry?
I don't know.
Despite her words, the Monokuma maid's entire body seemed to be overwhelmed by anger.
We're going against Hope Peak Academy's research and nurturing of the ultimate hope, which has an enormous budget. Even with that, its existence was hidden from the student body.
Okay, before you continue, okay, well, there you... I mean, this almost has to be Izuru now. We're going against Hope's Peak's research and nurturing of the ultimate hope, which has an enormous budget. And then here, that's the key word. Even with that, its existence was hidden from the student body. And we know that, like, nobody really knows if Izuru's even real. So that's... I'm, like, 90% sure now. Anyways, continue.
We do not know the details of how classified a project it is, but it's entirely frustrating. It's more frustrating than anything I've ever experienced. That research funding is being taken from the Reserves Corps' own tuition.
Yep.
This school is literally stealing our money and our hope and devoting it entirely to their ultimate hope. They're using us as a lunch pad for that stupid little make-believe story. Is that what this school calls hope? If it's for the sake of an ultimate talent, why don't they say why don't they care what we have to say about that? Is it not worth even thinking about those with no talent? Well.
Calm down a little. Or not.
Stop joking the hell around, for God's sake! Just what is hope? Why are the people chosen by talent so goddamn great? The people who stand on the sidelines, they aren't too great too?
Aren't they great too?
What bullshit? Aren't they great too? What bullshit? That's not fair. That's just elitist. I'm fine if all the useless nobodies die just for the sake of those celestial few, isn't it? Right? I'm right, aren't I? Gah!
Well, this is what Junko's using to her advantage, this feeling that the Reserve Corps students have of basically being chopped liver. There was no longer any way for me to stop her onslaught of verbal abuse.
Bullshit! That hope that they praise as so mighty is bullshit. Every little bit of hope in this school is covered in bullshit. Oh, make way! The festival of shit is coming. Shit! Bullshit!
Well, the Monokuma maid lost it. Junko sowing the seeds of discontent. Her words
I think
overflowed.
you just need to get good, bro.
I think they are getting good. I think this is their way of getting good. Her words overflowed with nothing but hatred. It wasn't mild by any means. It was a hatred not unlike a deadly poison. She seemed to be upset with not just the ultimate hope, but Hope's Peak Academy itself, and even the very concept of hope. I wrote all this in my notebook, but soon my hand came to a stop. Huh?
Did you run out of pages?
I returned my attention to the words already written inside. Originally, is what I would say, considering this notebook fundamentally acts as my memory itself. Originally, I was suspended from the school. It also mentions the Ultimate Hope, the parade, the reserve course, and Hope's Peak Academy. Huh? But this has nothing to do with me. This has absolutely nothing to do with Ryoko Tanashi, so she's trying to gaslight herself again.
I
This
think
has...
you're bullshitting yourself.
It's ironic given how much we were saying shit and bullshit with the other girl earlier in this page.
Indeed.
This has nothing to do with me. I said so quietly I doubted it was
but this
audible
has
to anyone.
everything to do with you, Ryoko Atanashi.
My
If this
words
was a story, you'd be the character on the cover book.
Yep. My words sounded dry, as though spoken in a desert that had grown inside of me. What do I have to do? Monokuma maid took a deep breath and looked shyly to me. She seemed to have finally calmed down.
Nothing.
That's right. This whole thing has nothing to do with me. And so I should escape from this place that also has nothing to do with me. Hey, do you happen to know where the bathroom is? I need to excuse myself for a moment.
Yeah? Is it a number 1 or a number 2?
Do I really need to tell you which one before going?
No, but you see, we only have one bathroom, so if someone were to use it for number 2, they would have disastrous consequences for others who wish to make use of it. It'd be sudden death, death race, death note.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, for now I'll just go to the bathroom, I replied and began to run like I was trying to escape. Well, to be more precise, I was running while actually planning to escape. There was no reason for me to be in this place anymore, because it had nothing to do with me.
It's at the end of the hall. Are you fine without a map?
The Monokuma maid called out as I ran away. Yeah, I think we might have wanted a map. That's funny that they have maps.
This place is so sus, we need it.
Yep. The end of the hall. As I heard her, the end of the hall grew closer and closer. I fled toward it, between the Monokuma heads who were still at their desks. They didn't even bother to glance at me. Their eyes were still plastered to the monitors in front of them. Just what is it they're so engrossed in? I knew it had nothing to do with me.
Junko Enoshima.
But curiosity had taken over my otherwise calm mind, so I looked back. Okay, is that your prediction? Just straight up just Junko's like face or something? Huh? It was completely black. Every monitor was pitch black. None had a single image displayed on it. Does that give you despair?
Kinda.
Anyways, go ahead. This is your
It is time to start again. Now.
more dead inside.
Okay.
Like no emotion.
Phase 1 has now ended. Phase 2 is now beginning.
Interrupting the robotic voices speaking in unison, the monitors all lit up. I'm gonna assume that this is Junko speaking. It could be Monokuma, though. So, I guess, do you want me to do Junko, or you to do Monokuma, or me to do Monokuma, or what? This is, I don't know, but it's gotta be one of the two.
I don't mind, really.
I'll just pretend it's Junko, because I think that's probably more likely. Hope's Peak Academy presents... Young people, test the true extent of your hope to succeed. You've all proven yourself to be among the most talented there is. To cement your own hope, you must kill more than anyone else. The final exam of mutual killing has now begun. Phase 2. Flashing words took up the entirety of the screen in a vivid and intense display that real television stations would never have used. What the heck? The question appeared in my head for a moment, but only for a moment. The image on the monitors changed. Now every screen was a vivid red. It was almost as though each monitor had been completely covered in bright red cellophane. I looked more closely, and in the red, I saw something twitch. It seemed to be a person. The walls and floor of the room in the video were dyed crimson. I couldn't make out distinct features, but what appeared to be a body drenched in red slowly rose from the ground, wriggling and writhing like a worm. All of it was captured in bird's eye view by the camera. At first, I thought it was some sort of avant-garde dance or obscure video art, but I soon realized was something entirely different. As he rose, the stumbling person wandered to both sides of the screen. The clothing on his body was almost completely covered in blood. Even so, I could tell it was a uniform from Hope's Peak Academy. As the
It's
man...
gotta be, We haven't found the guy that ran away yet, have we?
That's presumably Izuru.
Yeah.
As the man dragged a chair loosely behind him, someone else in frame was begging on his hands and knees nearby. The man who was standing passed the chair to his other hand before swinging it up into the air. When it was over the top of his head, he swung it down and... Huh? I couldn't grasp what I had just seen. I just continued to stare at the monitor, dumbfounded. The chair was swung down innumerable times. He continued to bring it crashing down on the groveling man without hesitation. The camera's angle changed, now showing a close-up of the man swinging the chair. He seemed to be shouting something over and over again.
Damn, bludgeoned to death by a fucking chair. That's a hard way to go.
So I think this is one of our robotic Monokuma heads. Potatoes.
Turn up the sound.
The Monokuma head sitting in front of me turned up the volume on his monitor. I could hear the man's yelling in the video now. His voice only grew louder until it was nothing but heart-wrenching screams. Just a guy.
I don't want to die!
Apart from the anguished cries, I could hear one more noise. Squelch. Splat. Horrifying. Like yogurt and cartilage being mashed together. Every time the man swung down the chair, the sound rang out.
I'm...
Squish.
Not bad.
Splat.
It's not my fault.
Slosh.
So...
Squelch.
How the fuck are you still alive?
Yeah, bro's just getting beaten the shit out of with the chair.
Bad.
Squit. At that point, the chair broke. But the boy that had been groveling in front of him was long past broken. His head was beyond recognition, instead looking like a squished tomato that someone had dropped. Around it, a mixture of blood and brain fluid. I was beyond able to express the sheer horror I felt. The skull of the boy on the monitor was split open, thick fluid spilling out. I couldn't look away from the body. I couldn't move at all. I stared at the monitor, stunned and beyond overwhelmed.
That's enough.
The man in the monitor said to no one in particular as he shook and trembled.
I've killed those other two. That should be enough.
The boy's words were interrupted by the sound of thick glass breaking. Before he could come to his senses, another man was behind him with a bottle in his hand. Without warning, the newcomer beat the first man down with a single blow aimed at his head.
What the fuck is going on right now?
It's pretty clear. This is a killing game. But but the difference
in the school?
I think what we're seeing is how the student council died.
Jesus Christ, they all just played the killing game.
But the difference being that this is most likely what we're actually witnessing is probably Junko's original killing game, except it's unclear as to what role Junko had in it, as opposed to because whether it was set up by Junko, whether it was set up by Izuru, someone else.
This is just to iron out the bugs.
But the difference is this is a killing game that's less of a killing game. In fact, if I actually go back a little. What was the line that they used? The final exam of mutual killing is what it was called. So technically it was referred to as a final exam as opposed to a killing game, and it was referred to as phase 2. So this was the second part of the master plan, I guess. Anyways. Did you do the scream?
Yeah!
As the man clutched desperately at his face with both hands, he roared out like a wounded animal. Suddenly, with a panicked burst of adrenaline, he ran from the room, thrashing in agony.
Wait!
The ambusher tailed after him with unsteady steps. The image on the screen once again changed, now showing a corridor. In the corridor was a man whose face was drenched in blood. Small pieces of glass had embedded themselves into his eyes, causing them to bleed as well.
Save me!
He screamed out in a slurred voice. His mouth seemed to open and twist into a grin, but of course it was nothing of the sort. His lips were torn open and he was no longer able to close them. Standing not much farther along in the hall was a trembling girl. She stood otherwise alone in the gloomy corridor, holding a cleaver tightly in her hands. Her creepy appearance alone filled me with fear. However, the man running in terror didn't even see her. As he screamed in pain, he stumbled in her direction. As the girl readied herself into a defensive position, she thrusted the cleaver up above her. At that moment, the boy's head dropped in sudden realization. Squelch. The cleaver sunk into his skull. On impact, the shards of glass once stuck in his eyes were thrown out. The man continued forward for a few steps before finally collapsing. As the girl's entire body trembled violently, she stared blankly at the corpse.
I don't want to die. I had to.
But yeah, this literally does feel like a test run of like proving that you can make like people kill each other in the right circumstances. That's absolutely.
You always gotta iron out the bugs sometimes.
Yeah, and just like obviously this is less performative. This is more just get to it kind of vibes. Clearly, because they're like literally just going at it. So I who knows how this was exactly set up, but it's clearly. Yeah, it's clearly very interesting. The volume on the monitor wavered with her trembling voice. Behind her, the figure of another high school student with an iron pipe in his hand slowly moved toward her. Finally, I managed to pull my eyes away. It was nothing but a movie in bad taste, in ridiculously bad taste. That was some sort of video the reserve students had made, right? That being the case, it truly was terrifying. More than that, it was bursting with realism. The dead people on screen seemed so real that the viewer might think their body's cold, and in return that feeling of coldness would enhance the illusion of death. The warm blood seeping from the bodies of the dead was incomparable to the heat that was emitted from their bodies during the time they lived. A heat so strong it could fog up the lens on a camera. An immense heat that vanished after death. But just what on earth is going on? It's just so...
insignificant, isn't it?
Much to my surprise, one of the Monokuma heads sitting in front of me, still staring at a monitor, was speaking to me.
This is hope? This thing is hope?
The boy murmured some more, sounding almost bored. As he spoke, his words seemed drenched in despair.
At some point in their life, everyone just ends up thinking to themselves, mutual killing just brings it out sooner. Up until then, people would just say it's important to have hope. And so they'll do anything to protect it. People like us have abandoned that idea. After all, it's just so insignificant.
Right, because you, in that perspective, you are killing on the premise of a hope of surviving, of escaping, right? So like that act is in and of itself hope, which is very, that kind of gets into like, some dark territory that's very very cool and wild. The boy murmured
awesome sauce.
We already said that. He seemed irritated at his own words. The irritation only became more apparent as he spoke, till he began to breathe heavily. How long have you been watching this? Always?
Not always. We've only seen it 5,818 times.
So they're literally just sitting there watching it like over and over again when they're not protesting or whatever.
It took that many times before they stopped vomiting at the sight of it.
Jesus Christ. Did he say 5,818 times? Also the fact that, like, that's actually crazy that he remembers the exact number too. I felt sweat run down my already soaked back. Even if someone had told me 100 times that this video was fake, it would continue to replay in my head. Despite only watching it once, my brain seemed inclined to believe it was real. This really is something I shouldn't get myself involved in. I have to escape right now. I looked up until I met someone else's gaze. On the other side of the hall, the Monokuma maid looked at me patiently, waving a hand. It only worsened my need to run. Chills shot up along my spine as if trying to run from the video. It's so interesting that she's more or less just being allowed to just like peruse this hideout at her will. Like they're not like the Monokuma maids, I guess, watching her, but it's like, yeah, whatever. It's just...
And they're speaking very casually to her.
Yeah. like
not
I
even,
said,
like, because of that madam shit. Like,
yeah, like it definitely
very weird. Yeah, that they have a very strong hatred of talented potatoes, but they still refer to her as a madam.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on?
Yeah, because I mean that's essentially
Junko,
like that
what
would be
have you
kind of
done?
like, yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what all of this means, and it's exciting that we should get our answers for the most part by the next video, if not in this one. Um,
You think?
I guess you never know. We didn't get all the answers in DR1, to be fair.
We're still in chapter 1.
Yeah,
Or
I
in
know this is
the first
7.
chapter.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Well, this is a long one. It only worsened my need to run. Chills shot up along my spine as if trying to run from the video that now tormented my mind. I dove into the passage at the back of the hall. The sound of my footsteps echoed through the dark corridor around me. Once again, the walls, floor, and ceiling were all covered in concrete. Concrete, 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 concrete. The passageway I found myself in was just the same, clearly not wide enough for more than one adult to fit in. I began to feel an overwhelming sense of claustrophobia. The only light I could see was the dim, veiled lighting that illuminated my feet. The atmosphere of the thin corridor was overwhelming and strange. As I ran down the passageway, I suddenly realized I had no idea why I was running down a passageway. Anxiety took hold of me. I continued to run down this endless path for what felt like a lifetime, the only thought entering my mind being how much I wanted to get out of it. Suddenly, my feet stopped moving. Another concrete wall stood in the way before me, making it seem for a moment that I had reached a dead end. To both sides of me were bare concrete. As for the wall in front of me, I was able to make out a door that led elsewhere. Is this the exit? With that belief firm in my heart, I reached a hand out to the door. There was no key needed, no lock to speak of. The door opened with ease. Full of hope, I peered behind it. A bout of deja vu struck me. More concrete. It was a small room with its walls, floor, and ceiling all covered in concrete. At the back of the room, though, was a bizarre sight. 2 parallel sets of iron bars. Is this a jail cell? I walked forward cautiously, standing first in front of the barred grate to the right. On the other side of the bars was nothing but darkness, a deep black mist. From it, a chilly and ominous air drifted out. I timidly tried to look through to the other side of the grate. Who's there? Oh, no, sorry. That's you.
That's fine.
A voice called out from within the darkness, causing my heart to jump in shock. Eek!
Who's there?
It was the hoarse voice of an old man. He sounded as if he were being overly cautious of something dreadful. There? Where do you mean? My shaking voice bounced off the walls. In the back of the cell, a shadowy silhouette came into focus. They remained seated in a chair with their head hanging down, as if they were asleep. Are you okay? Even so, the person showed no sign of hearing me. I tilted my head to the side.
Me?
Yeah, it's you. Just go with it.
There's no point in trying anymore.
The voice wasn't coming from the cell in front of me as I had expected, but rather the cell next to it. This might just be a little more deadpan, not less pathetic, probably.
He hasn't been responding since yesterday. Don't you know it's useless?
Useless? What's useless? I once again looked at the cell in front of me. My eyes finally adjusted to the darkness, and the downward-gazing face that was blanketed in shadow slowly became clearer. The face had lost its vitality. His surprisingly long, dark red tongue lolled out of his mouth sloppily. I knew at first glance he wasn't sleeping. He was dead.
Long, sloppy, dark red tongue, huh? We know someone with a very long, sloppy, dark red tongue.
I can think of someone,
2 someones,
yes.
actually.
Yeah, sure.
Surprisingly, a lot of people do have 3-foot long, deep-throating tongues in this universe.
Yeah, it must be a fetish of Kadaka's.
Once you reach a certain level of just sus, your tongue grows 3 sizes.
Honestly. Eek! I screamed as I stepped back and, misjudging my footing, subsequently ended up on the floor. It seemed so real. The possibility of the corpse before me being fake hadn't come to mind at all. The situation had become scarier than anything I had ever experienced, at least out of what I could recall. Shivers ran through my body so intensely it seemed to hurt. Is he dead? He is. Cold air passed through my lips as I felt unable to breathe. I quickly tried to gulp down a lungful of air with a heavy sob. It was at that point when I heard the old man's voice sound surprised.
Why is it you're panicked? You're with them, right?
That's what we're trying to figure out. Is she with them?
Not in her current state.
Yeah. I flicked through Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook with trembling hands. Almost immediately, I recalled the memory of the reserve students. Of course not. Please don't lump me together with those people in the bear masks.
So, you're not wearing a mask?
What a strange question. Can't you tell just by looking? I stood up, stumbling unsteadily like a newborn deer, then clumsily walked in front of the adjacent cell where I'd heard the man's voice. Inside, I could see someone's figure hunched over on a chair.
I can't see.
Eh? The old man raised his head. Where his eyes should have been on his wrinkled face, I saw 2 dark indents instead. They weren't covered by shadows. There was fine black stitching like it had been done by a sewing machine. Blood had oozed from the stitches and dried within the threads. It had all come together into a pitch-black mess, preventing the man from opening his eyelids.
Well, that seems a little excessive.
I felt a severe bout of nausea as my stomach threatened to empty itself. Immediately, I covered my mouth with my hands.
You seem surprised seeing this. You really aren't with them.
The old man's voice suddenly changed to a pleading tone.
Please, won't you help me? Help me escape from this place. I'd be forever in your debt. I'm begging you.
Because of it,
Because
the
of the
dark.
darkened
Yeah.
skin.
This is just the mystic quote there. Because of the darkened skin around the desperate man's eyes, it was almost impossible to discern his expression. What happened? I asked simply, a sob coming out at the same time.
They locked us in separate cells. They told us they wouldn't kill whose ever jaw they broke. That's what they said.
They wouldn't kill whoever's jaw they broke?
We all supported each other at first, but the circumstances became too much to bear. We were scared. If only we had turned on each other sooner. But there wasn't a choice. So they broke my jaw.
That's why he's still alive. He turned toward the other cell. The dead body wandered through the back of my mind. I briefly wonder why I hadn't forgotten about it yet. I mean, it could be more, what's it called? Steering committee potatoes? Because we're talking about, like, old men. So that could be what's going on here.
Only people in this school on the steering committee.
And we know
but
that...
Junko still doesn't know what happened to that body.
Yeah. But these are probably other members.
What? Is this just a forgotten plot point? Like, what the hell?
No, we don't know. We just don't know.
Are we gonna find out?
I would imagine so. But that's probably for the very end, though. Hey, yeah, this is you.
Hey, why don't we make a deal?
Huh? As the old man started to talk again, his voice sounded once more like he was begging.
We can talk. I'll tell you whatever I know. You came to hear about it, right? In exchange, you can help me escape from here. How does that sound?
Okay, I answered impulsively, instantly regretting doing so. Really is better to be the one who isn't involved. Even after agreeing to help him escape, I wasn't sure how I would do it. More and more regret began to pile up, but even so, the man with the ruined eyes story had already long since begun.
The people from the reserve course had tried to find someone's location from me. They called him Izuru Kamakura.
Well, there we go. There's Izuru mention. For the time being, I decided it would be for the best to listen to the old man's story. Either way, it didn't seem like I had any real choice. I'd have time to think about it all once he was finished.
I don't know how they found out, but they knew for a fact we were hiding Kamakura. If they find out where he is, they'd be a heartbeat away from true power. So it is a person that exists.
I mean, unless that's a misdirect, that almost fully confirms that it's not Ryoko, at the very least. True power. I felt my jaw clench at such a cruel phase.
Their goal is to crush this school by making use of Izuru Kamakura's existence to overthrow Hope's Peak Academy, crumbling its very foundation.
Like, that's the interesting thing in all this. Like, Izuru is such a huge part of Junko's plan.
Seriously, what the hell is this what?
Like,
who is this?
Seemingly the most important part of her plan, and then seemingly the next most important part is Ryoko. Anyways, did you say crush? I suddenly cried out. That's too much. Hope's Peak Academy is crushed. I won't be able to see Matsuda anymore, of course. This is the guy.
So, you have to do something and find a way to stop the reserve course.
But what can I do?
If this keeps up, we'll be handing Kamakura to the reserve course in a silver platter. And there's no doubt it will be the end of Hope's Peak Academy.
Even if you say that...
The old school building. Izuru Kamakura is there.
Yo! Wait a minute, hold on. Okay, let's go. But please wait. I will say, what's interesting... I'm a little surprised that this guy's giving this information this easily. Because...
He just knows they're not... She's not part of the torture course, and that's kind of it.
I guess, but this could be an act. Like, for all he knows, this could be, like, a trick to give out, you know, like... This literally is the information that they want from him, is what he just gave us. So I feel like that was, like, a little quick, you know?
Bro is desperate to get out of this, so...
Sure. Please wait. But now it's like... If anyone heard that, if any of the Junko Monokuma despair people heard that, they might as well just kill him, because that's what they were waiting for all along. That's why they kept him alive. I interrupted, ending the conversation prematurely. Quickly, I wrote in Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook, old school building. But then, A sudden bout of dizziness hit me, and I struggled to stay upright. What's happening?
Oh, again. This is what happened in the cafeteria.
Yep. And now it's time for, more...
Scene change.
Maybe. But he's still talking.
Just a short time ago, we had a large number of guards there. Officially speaking, we can't do that anymore because of potential danger with the upcoming demolition. But that's not the real reason. In truth, it's because that's where we're hiding Izuru Kamakura.
Interesting. As I listened to his story, half distracted, it happened again. Dizziness beyond anything I could describe. My vision was becoming blurred. As I stumbled, I laid my hand on the bars in front of me to steady myself.
Is this like important info she's not supposed to remember?
I don't know. I think if anything that Junko would want Ryoko to remember this, because even if like none of Junko's people are listening in, at the very least, Ryoko
but it might go into
Junko
the
right to Izuru.
It might go to the idea that
Matsuda
did
influence,
this.
like when he potentially messed with her brain. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe. Because Junko would want this information, so yeah, it would have to be Matsuda if it is a thing where it's like something she's not supposed to find out or whatever.
Up until now, everything I've said.
I knew the old man was right in front of me, and yet it felt as though he was far in the distance.
It is the whole story. As far as I know. So please, could you free me now?
His voice sounded almost... sounded almost seemed muffled, sure. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it ring loudly in the back of my ears.
What's the matter? Hurry up. It's felt unbearably hot around my eyes for a while now. I need to see a doctor. Hey, did you hear me?
I didn't. The thumping in my ears was only growing louder, completely drowning out all other sound. I couldn't hear anything anymore. I shouldn't be able to hear anything anymore. And yet I could hear a single eerie laugh. At the same time, I felt a presence behind me. A disgusting presence. Like having uncomfortably warm, humid air being blown onto the back of my neck. So this is weird. This is the second time now in literally the last 2 chapters involving Ryuko, second time in 3 chapters overall, where she just like starts to like almost, she hasn't blacked out yet, but she's like, all of a sudden she just starts like going all fucky wucky, and then there's Junko.
Yeah.
Very weird. Anyways, sensing
Oh,
it,
you actually think this is Junko?
Oh, it's gotta be. I mean, it could be Monokuma, like actual Monokuma. That would be funny. But
hell yeah.
Sensing it, my body begun to shake and tremble. I felt paralyzed. Because it's the same reaction, like you said, that she had when she passed out and Junko just randomly popped up out of nowhere. I felt paralyzed, unable to say anything. The laugh grew louder and higher, as if it were mocking me.
What's so funny?
Even the older man's shouts sounded like they taunted me as the voice became more intense. So that's important, because that tells us at the very least these laughs are not in her head. Like, they are physically happening if the guy can hear it.
Oh, that's never been doubted before. She's never had, like, insanity like that.
Well, I'm more so just talking about this and the previous time. Because the previous time was really weird, and there's still no... We don't really have a proper way to explain that logically, what happened last time. Like, it literally doesn't make sense based on the information we have up to this point.
Hmm. Shut up!
That was the last one.
I know, but I wish one of them said that.
That would be funny.
But why are you laughing? What's so funny?
Now, obviously he's blind, but it is interesting that he's not able.
He can't tell the difference.
He can't tell the difference. Yeah, that's interesting. The old man shouted, his voice filled with unease. As he struggled to grasp what was happening, his voice grew angry and especially hoarse. There it is.
Oh my god. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up!
We just had to get to the next page. The laughing came to a halt. What a lovely face you're making. It's gotta be. The voice began, directed toward the old man. But it's like I said, you won't ever escape. Your face will only become more full of despair, you know?
It's Matsuda.
That would be crazy. That would break me. I would like lose my mind. That'd be insane. But anyways, that.
Well,
yeah. The old man's face was filled with emotion, and for a moment it flashed white. His reaction seemed impossibly odd as the laughing grew louder again. You want me to do all of these?
Yoko? Oh, your poor throat.
The laugh bounced off the concrete around the room, each echo overlaying the previous one. Ironically, the poo-hoo-hoo-hoo doesn't actually do... I can do that just fine.
Oh, that's good then.
The laugh... Yeah, each echo overlaying the previous one. Like a body with no soul, I stood still, dizzily swaying. The life had drained from my entire being, making even small movements impossible. I couldn't even ignore the voices, only try to determine which was which. My consciousness had finally reached its limit. Light, sound, and color had all disappeared at once. The scene before me twisted and warped like paint dripping into water. The old man on the other side of the iron bars also became blurred at the border of my vision. What? As I watched the distorting world in front of me, I murmured to myself, what is this? It's true. This is really, really weird. It's like she's disassociating with reality now when Junko shows up, which wasn't happening before.
It's because she's starting to get in her head more. There's a fucking muff here.
But, like, especially the fact that, like, again, it seems like she's about to pass out again. Soon the world melted into a puddle of colors, each color hardening into different shades. The colors then started to intermingle once again, the world changing to another world. Like a scene with a flowing river. I swayed with the current, and everything in front of me began to pass me by. Behind me was a giant open door. An avalanche of Monokuma heads poured out of it. Screams echoed from the direction of the cell. A puddle of bright red water appeared at my feet. I ran from it in my trance. Then, darkness. Chapter 7.
That was kind of dark.
That was really dark. There was a lot in there that was really dark, for sure.
What the actual fuck just happened?
We apparently we got to meet a bunch of the reserve corps students and find out that we don't know if they're all in on it, but at least a significant amount of reserve corps students are, like, apparently Monokuma slaves, and are, like, they are, at the very least, they believe in the idea of revolutionizing the world and whatever Junko has sold to them, seemingly. And
she's made her own little cult.
Yeah, no, like, we've unironically... See, it's interesting, right? Because, like, this is the most direct, like... This is the first time we've ever, like... With the exception of Mukuro, who is at no point in this story or DR1 openly acted as a follower of Junko, this is the first time that we've ever actually met followers of Junko in the series.
Well,
no, it's not like
Mukuro.
But I literally just said, we met Mukuro, but we've never seen her act as a follower of Junko. She's always been pretending to do something else. Like, so we've never really seen what that Mukuro is like. But we've seen, that's my point. So, like, obviously none of these aren't, like, big potatoes. These aren't ultimates. These are reserve course potatoes. But this is the first time we've really gotten to witness, like, followers of Junko. In any sense.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It's pretty good.
At the very least, it does
the
prove...
effect she has on them.
It does prove that she... yes, in fact, not that there was ever any doubt based on what we've seen. I mean, we've seen the way she's been able to play Matsuda and Ryuko, but we've actually gotten to witness the fact that, yeah, she has, like, broken people. Like, a lot of people. And probably more than what we've seen, because, like I said, I fully believe that when we talk about, you know, one despair after another will come after you, when she mentions that at the end of DR1, I fully expect she's not talking about people like this. She's talking about, you know, most likely ultimates or ex-ultimates that are, like, very, like, you know, skilled individuals in one form or another.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else to say about Chapter 7 of Volume 2?
Well, we pretty much had the Danganronpa equivalent of the Hunger Games.
Yeah, we also got to see, like, an actual, like, I feel like, unironically, like, a real killing game. Like, that was, like, actual killing game.
We got to see an actual murder in real time.
Yeah, like, that's crazy.
We never got that before.
Yeah, that's nutty. I guess technically we also got to see that when Matsuda literally killed a guy.
Oh yeah,
there's been a little bit. There's actually been a little bit of that in Danganronpa 0.
That wasn't quite as grotesque, but
no, that was just, you know, he had to do what he had to do, but he didn't want, you know, he just choked him out. He wasn't trying to, like, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy stuff for sure. But yeah, whenever you're ready, we can continue.
I am ready.
All right, chapter 8. In the next moment, I awoke in the middle of a brightly lit room, feeling as though I had been reborn. I had woken up re-energized, a new and invigorated Ryoko Tanashi. Okay, back-to-back chapters on Ryoko. We actually haven't seen much of this in the story. So this is interesting, too. So now we're going to find out that she's God knows where, right? And it's like, so she, every time, it's like, Junko shows up, she starts to, like, disassociate, then she passes out, then she wakes up somewhere completely different. Because, like, yeah, she somehow went from the cafeteria to the secret society, and now God knows where she's going to be now. But if she's seeing light, I'm assuming this is, like, a totally different area. Stretching as I arose, I slowly made my way upright. I turned my gaze to the window to witness the sun's light, which filled the white room with its brilliant rays from between the curtains. It must have been morning.
Does she have the notebook?
Yeah, this could be her room again, maybe. I suppose I had fallen asleep without realizing it. Being as forgetful as I was, it wasn't uncommon for me to be unsure of when I fell asleep. At that moment, I felt light rush in from the back of my eyes. An image conceived itself within my head. The basement. Reserve course. Oh, remembering things. Monokuma. A sudden flashback. Definitely an unfamiliar experience. Could this be my memory? Oh my god, she's actually... I didn't even process that. Forget words. She actually had a flashback.
Oh, that's
new.
different.
That has not happened. We've talked about how when she talks to Junko, she forgets less, and Matsuda, she forgets more, but no, she's not had a flashback yet.
She can process, yeah.
And she's even saying, could this be my memory? Now. Like, she's even saying, like, I don't remember what I'm seeing, but she's still seeing it. So that's progress for sure. An itching sensation tickled my brain. I seemed to be remembering something that I couldn't remember any further. It was a feeling that I understood by intuition, but at the same time, the fact that I could even have such a feeling was bewildering. Exactly. It's like incomplete, but it's the signs of something that she shouldn't be able to do at all. What is this? What happened to me? With confusion and anxiety welling up within me to create fear, my eyes darted around the room. Resting beside the bed was my bag. I hurriedly rummaged through it, and just as expected, found what I was looking for. Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook. First things first, I need to remember where I am. I flipped through the notebook to see if I could recall anything about the room. This is the Neuroscience Institute. Oh, so she's at Matsuda's, like, little lab room place. Okay. That's kind of in the same vein. I was thinking it would be her room, but this works too. Thank goodness. If anything, this is slightly weirder. As the location set in, I let out a sigh of relief. Wait, but where's Matsuda? I looked around the room once more, but there was no sign of him anywhere. Matsuda. As I looked down at my notebook, I remembered something important. So obviously, whether she was brought back here or somehow got here herself, however she got here, this would have been after Matsuda, like the poison that Junko had kissed into him, wore off, and then he left running God knows where he would have went after all that.
We might see very soon.
Yeah, as I looked down at my notebook, I remembered something important. Speaking of Matsuda, I haven't received treatment from him for a while now!
Oh, you can remember that.
One, she can remember that, and two, it's a great point. She hasn't had treatment from Matsuda in a while now, and her memory's getting better.
Has she just not realized she can remember now? Is her memory back?
I don't think it's back, but it's like, it's the most, I think this is the most coherent her memory's ever been in the story. She's definitely having blocks in her memory. Like, it's not there, but it's definitely getting closer. And it definitely feels like this is built. I don't think I will say, she's not going to get, I'm pretty confident she's not going to get treatment again in this story. And yeah, by the end, she will probably remember.
Well, she might.
She will remember everything. Yeah. I said she won't get it. How that happens, I don't know. But she won't get it, and she will remember everything by the end. 100%.
Fair enough.
That's absolutely where it's going. And they are like, at this point, I feel like they're beating it into our heads that Matsuda is keeping her this way. Like, that one was like, this feels really on the nose. Which also tells you that they have a bigger reveal cooking than that, probably.
Let's see if...
Because I think they're being obvious about it.
Let's see if that just clicked.
Now I know why my head was feeling so muddled and odd. If that's right, I need to have another session with him soon. Just as impatience began to rise within me, something interrupted my thoughts. Rustle, rustle. I heard a strange sound. It sounded like it was coming from underneath the bed I was sitting on. Another itching feeling surfaced in my mind as thoughts of someone's voice resurfaced. Why are you under the bed? And then, so I can control my frustration and actually concentrate. As I remember the conversation between Matsuda and myself, I quickly peered beneath the bed. Matsuda?
Oh my god, she just straight up fucking like...
Yeah,
she's not even processed that she
can
remember this.
I know. She literally just remembered a conversation that she had with him, like, way earlier in the story.
The ultimate analyst can't realize she's remembering right now.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, it's such a foreign feeling to her, the idea of remembering things to this extent that, like... Matsuda? Then our eyes met. Returning my gaze was an unfamiliar girl. Who are you? I asked without thinking. The girl on her back replied rather coldly.
Do you think you could move from there? You're in my way.
Sure. Puzzled, I shifted my legs to the side, watching as
it's Kyoko.
Kyoko. I mean, who else? Like, I mean, to be fair, this is funny because assuming this is someone, this would be the third character that has been under the bed in the neuroscience, because Matsuda did it, Junko did it, and now Kyoko's under the bed.
2 out of 3.
That's
from
crazy.
the OG.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have to see, but cold response.
Oh my
and
god,
she's under
girl,
the bed. I think you're right.
You met like a good third of the cast.
It's crazy too because I'm excited at the prospects of a Kyoko Ryoko scene if this is what this is going to be.
And all the others were familiar with her.
Puzzled.
Oh god, that's such a fucking tongue twister.
Yep, Kyoko and Ryoko.
Yeah.
Puzzled, I shifted my legs to the side, watching as the girl soon crawled out from under the bed. She stood, exhaling a quiet sigh, and began brushing the dust off her body. Inadvertently, her hands had caught my attention. They were covered by perfectly fitted, imposing black leather gloves.
Yes!
Ah, she's back. Yeah, you knew she had to, we were clearly not done with her yet.
I never know. This is a universe of despair.
True, but I'm not even saying we'll get the most satisfying ending necessarily with her character, because obviously she can't die and she can't figure everything out, probably, unless she immediately gets some weird mind wipe or something. But
it's coming.
Whatever the case may be, she's.
we know her mind wipe. Took a bit of extra effort.
Yeah. Anyways, they almost felt gloomy. Noticing my gaze, the girl's hand slipped behind her back as though she were trying to hide them.
It looks as if the rumors were true then.
Huh? I was a bit confused. The girl spoke to me as though we were already in the middle of a conversation. What rumors?
Amnesia, correct? You're being treated here?
The itching sensation returned to my mind yet again. Okay, I want to actually bring up something. Does Kyoko know Ryoko? Because we know Makoto apparently seems to know Ryoko.
That's what I said. Is that the others, everyone else we've seen from Class 78 seems to know her.
Because Junko,
yeah. It's very likely that Kyoko would too.
Dude, is somebody gonna tell us how the connection? Please, for the love of God.
No. I feel like that's going to remain ambiguous. I feel like that's not a detail they're going to say.
Yeah, it's too spoilerific.
Why do they know each other?
Enough.
Because they had 2 years in the school. They just met up at some point. The class the class like sat in the same room together at some point. They
Yeah,
spoke over lunch. It's like
Sure.
one class needed the other's like talent shit for
It's
something.
just interesting,
It just
though.
happened.
It's just interesting, though, because the original characters in this don't know her. So it's specifically people from the class we know. That's the thing that's interesting. if Kyoko knows her. The itching sensation returned to my mind yet again. Without thinking, I sat down on the bed. The girl eyed me suspiciously. Trying to ignore the itchiness in my head, I asked her about herself. Do we know each other?
Kyoko Kirigiri of the 78th class.
The name was entirely unknown to me. Right away, I opened my notebook and searched for any mention of it, but found nothing. So we haven't met.
The matter of your memory impairment was kept under wraps to prevent your own confusion, I believe. That was the decision made, wasn't it? Was it made by Yatsuki Matsuda?
The girl fired question after question at me, leaving me entirely confused. Huh? What are you talking about? Wait, okay. The matter of your memory impairment was kept under wraps to prevent your own confusion, and she's assuming that Matsuda made that decision. Okay. That's not too sus, but obviously it does play into Matsuda potentially doing weird shit anyways. It's convenient for him. Anyways, huh? What are you talking about?
I see. So you don't remember that either.
Wait, do you know Matsuda? The girl became quiet and diverted her eyes, which only made her look more suspicious. Without a second thought, I pressed further. Hey, you know him, right? If you do, then please tell me, where is he? I pleaded. He was the one important thing to me. I wanted to know, needed to know where he was.
Unfortunately, I don't know either.
Eh? It felt as though Matsuda grew even further out of reach. I hung my head, unable to hide the sheer disappointment I felt. The girl gazed absently out the window, muttering quietly.
I'm searching for Yatsuki Matsuda as well. There's something I need to confirm with him.
Something you need to confirm with Matsuda? As I echoed her words, the girl returned her gaze to me, staring as if trying to discern something.
While I'm here, I may as well confirm something with you too.
Huh?
Earlier, you peeked under the bed while calling Yatsuki Matsuda's name, right? Was that because you knew it was something you'd normally do?
Yeah, she was looking under the bed. She was obviously investigating under the bed. And interesting. I wonder what maybe she found like some little scrap of something and she's wondering if it's Matsuda's.
Possibly.
But that's the thing. Junko was under there too, so it could belong to either one. Huh? What? The sudden questioning flustered me, and Kirigiri continued with mild restraint.
It would be best for you to answer honestly. Lying will only make this far more confusing.
I don't need to lie.
So you'll answer honestly then, correct?
As she pressed, I felt no choice but to answer. Yes, it's happened before. Matsuda said that when he gets annoyed, he has a habit of laying beneath the bed to clear his frustration and concentrate. But what does that have to do with anything?
To concentrate, huh?
A cruel smile crept up on Kirigiri's face. It seemed like she was mocking Matsuda. So without thinking, I found myself about to yell in his defense, but...
Well, I suppose that must have been a lie.
Huh?
Yatsuki Matsuda must have had a clear-going mind to crawl under the bed like that, just like I had.
While talking, Kirigiri crouched down to the bedside and slowly moved along its length. She stopped upon reaching me, still looking downward as she spoke.
Could you move?
Huh? Oh, okay. Confused, I stood from the bed. The girl gripped the bed sheets in her hands and flung them up in one swift movement. Gently, they floated in the air.
You can see it, right?
Kirigiri said, pointing under the bed. I crouched down beside her, peeking beneath the bed. At the back, I was able to see a large opening, maybe a half-meter in either direction, that led into nothing but darkness.
A hidden room. And not a terribly impressive one. I'd say it's about the size of a small storage room at best.
Storage room?
Most likely for concealing dead bodies.
Well then!
Quite the theory.
So I think she's moved in on the idea that Matsuda's the one that's been stealing the bodies.
I mean, yeah,
And
we need an answer for that.
And we talked about how we've talked about in the past that he feels like one of the only characters it could be, because his whereabouts are unknown in like all of those moments. Like Ryoko's never with Matsuda in any of those scenes.
Correct.
In fact, she's almost exclusively been with Matsuda in this room that we're in right now. So yeah, it's definitely, and obviously he's been up to some stuff, and this could have to do with him, like I said, trying to keep Junko away from Ryoko or hide or whatever the hell he's doing. But yeah, it does seem like Kyoko's made that connection.
What is your end game, Yatsuki Matsuda?
Huh? Though I was completely taken aback, Kirigiri continued to speak in an indifferent tone of voice.
There was a corpse hidden under there. Actually, 2 corpses. They seem to belong to the members of the steering committee.
I mean, that just confirms it.
Legit.
Wow.
Kyoko, you can't just come in and start speaking hard facts about mysteries we've been wondering since the start.
I mean, she is the ultimate detective.
You're skipping all the stages. Like, you're just rushing to the ending.
Well, that's the thing, right? She's been doing the research this whole time, but, you know. What are you saying? I shouted unintentionally as blood rushed to my face. Without even looking at me, she continued to speak coolly.
I'm joking.
Joking?
Your typical corpse begins to rot in environments as low as 5 degrees Celsius. If there were dead bodies here, they would have already thoroughly decayed. Now, do you know what bodies actually go through when decaying? Proteins in your body that contain sulfur begin to break down, producing hydrogen sulfide. That gas is what makes the odor of decay so strong.
Yeah.
You can shower or wash your clothes all you like, but it doesn't fade easily. And the smell isn't the only drastic change. The gas from decomposition builds up and increases pressure throughout the body, changing the muscles completely. The eyes begin to bulge until popping from their sockets like ping pong balls. The lips and tongue swell up, along with the body's
extremities.
Along with the body's extremities, and the skin loses its colour, leaving the individual hideous when compared to their living state. There's no evidence of any of that. What the fuck did that just have to do with anything?
Well, she was just... This is a
You
very,
could have just said the body hasn't decomposed.
Kyoko just did a Kyoko, though. That just felt like a very Kyoko thing to say.
Jesus Christ, Ryoko, your mind isn't the only one that races a mile a minute.
Clearly. What's interesting is, like, she said, I'm joking. And, like, Kyoko is not the type to joke about this, which means that even if she was like, oh, yeah, I didn't find any bodies in here, she still said that calculated. Like, she wouldn't have just said that as a joke.
Again, it's like...
She might be trying to judge Ryoko's reaction, or she might legitimately believe that... Like I said, she definitely did that for some reason.
Yes, but not 100%, because it's like, again... The thing about this kind of story is that you can write Kyoko a little OOC and just say, you know, this is just how she is, but she had amnesia before.
But I mean,
so
even
she didn't
based
remember
on
how she is.
Maybe, but I feel like that's a stretch. And you also have to remember that we're probably going to get Kyoko in the future, and I don't think they're going to want to. And I think
again, it could also be the case. Yeah, but this is the thing: is that like we go forward knowing, at least assuming that none of their memories of the 2 years have returned. This is just something say like, oh well, she gained a little sass in the 2 years since she warmed up to the students in the classes.
I mean, I think she has some sass, but this just doesn't.
We saw how little
Makoto
got to her in just
like you said. This just
feels
really odd for her, and even based on what we saw earlier, even based on what we saw earlier in the story when we did get a little bit of her, this just feels really off for her, which makes me think that there's more to it. Anyways, just the words alone caused my stomach to sour. Instinctively, I covered my mouth. I see. It was just a joke.
Well, it wasn't entirely a joke.
Yeah, I think she's playing games, like she's messing with us on purpose. As if to interrogate me, her stern gaze turned back in my direction.
Inside this storage room is a pitch black jersey. along with a pair of shoes of the same colour. Most likely, they were planned to be washed, but right now they still have blood on them. There's also a flatbed cart perfectly capable of transporting human bodies.
Okay, so she didn't find the bodies, but she found
She was too
evidence of them. Yeah, like he's gotten rid of the bodies already. So, what are you trying to say?
To summarize, I believe Yatsuki Matsuda was involved in the murder of the steering committee members.
Yeah, and I think it's as simple as just, yeah, he hid the bodies. I mean, we kind of know
We
that
know
he didn't do
was
the murder.
involved in one of them.
My body jolted upright as I felt myself begin to tremble. Grinding my teeth, I shot back in desperation. What are you saying? There's no way Matsuda would murder someone.
I never said he killed anyone. Only that he was involved with the murder.
Yeah, and she's right on the money, because he didn't. Well, he did kill someone, but he didn't kill a steering committee member, but he was involved, seemingly. For a brief moment, her irises lit up colorfully in the sunlight.
Still, that's what I believe to be the case. Though, what about the steering council president? I doubt he was just simply involved with that.
And she also suspects him of killing the student council president. So she's right on the money, it looks like, with Matsuda.
She's a detective. The ultimate.
I assume there's still a lot of things she hasn't put together, but as far as Matsuda's involvement in things, it does seem like she's right on the money. Huh?
Last night, a body belonging to the ultimate student council president, Soshan, this guy, was found.
Murasame, yep.
It's believed to have been a suicide. He got choked out. How are you believing that to be a suicide?
Well, who knows how it's being
Can't choke
covered.
yourself out.
Who knows how it's being covered up? And we know Hope's Peak is trying to cover up all those student council members getting killed. So who knows what's going on with this?
But without a doubt, he was murdered.
Because I'm assuming Kyoko has not gotten a chance to investigate this at all. I'm assuming she just knows. Like, yeah, he didn't kill himself. I couldn't quite
Don't underestimate me.
Quite see where she was going with this, but I already knew I wouldn't like it. My heart began beating faster and faster, and my breathing became ragged. Sweat began to form all over my body as the blood vessels in my forehead violently pulsed.
Most likely, Yatsuka Matsuda murdered Soshan
Murasame.
This guy.
Crack.
Murasame.
I could hear
I
the
refuse
sound.
to say his name one more time.
Sure. I could hear the sounds of the pillars supporting my stability breaking. An intense wave of anxiety crashed into me. The strands of thought that told me how to counter her jumbled together into a tangled mess, leaving me unable to say anything at all. Kirigiri continued to watch me with those eyes. She was so calm and collected that it made me sick. The eyes carried no emotion. They just observed. Yeah, like, that sounds... See, if anything, because of how serious the situation is, I actually think, if anything, she shows less levity than we arguably seen for the most part in DR1. Which is ironic, given how serious that situation was as well, but that was a little different. I don't know anything anymore. My messed up head, my tangled up thoughts, the overwhelming anxiety, those cold and calculating eyes, all attacked me at once as I sank into a bottomless swamp of confusion. I struggled, screaming out desperately as I sank. This has nothing to do with me. I've had enough. I'll forget about this. If I just forget, everything will go back to the way it was before. It's not an escape attempt, it's a battle. A battle to keep anyone and anything that isn't Matsuda out of my world. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me. Before long, in harmony with the explosive beating in my chest, my voice rose to a scream. Nothing to do with me, 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 nothing to do with me. As I continued to frantically shout out, the boiling heat in the pit of my stomach bubbled up and exploded from my mouth. This has nothing to do with me! Ah. And it really did explode. At the same time as my explanation, the door behind Kirigiri shattered.
What the fuck?
Shards of glass and splintered wood fluttered through the air, and the door fell to the ground like a tossed-away paper craft. And finally, the sound of destruction reverberated around the lab like an intense storm. I couldn't believe it. I did that. Me.
What?
I stared at the scene that had unfolded behind Kirigiri's now turned head.
The fuck? What? Huh?
Either she's mistaken or we have questions
What
to
are
ask.
you, a mutant?
Well, the reserve corps were calling themselves mutants.
We need to send you to a different kind of school for gifted youngsters?
Shoutouts to Xavier. Is this
What
my
I call
true...
you? Storm?
Is this my true power? Deep within me, I felt the fearsome abilities of Ryoko Otonashi awaken, and that's the end of the chapter.
What in the what?
Let Kodaka cook.
Is this becoming a shonen? From, like, epic battles of proportions unknown to, like, fucking superpowered, like, mental abilities, like telekinesis, psychokinesis, like, what the fuck?
We've always... See, that's the thing, though. Danganronpa typically has always teetered the edge, which likely means it's teetering the edge again.
This is disturbing.
So the key here is she's remembering things. That's clearly the key here. It all goes back to that. She's gradually...
They wiped her memory just to fucking depower her. What the hell?
See, this is weird because by all accounts, they've all but confirmed at this point that Izuru's this ultimate hope, but this is like a weird moment where it almost gives you a little bit of a feeling that it's Ryoko. Either way, this implies that she's potentially more than just the ultimate analyst. That's not the extent of it.
She's so powerful, she's analyzed quantum physics and the universe itself, and knows how to bend all of reality, time, and space to her very will.
I don't think it's anything ridiculous like that. I think it's just the point that she's even more special than she thought. Or we thought. So yeah, what'd you think of that chapter?
Pretty good stuff. Once again, Junko was like, hey, bitch, you can wake up here. And now she still hasn't realized it yet, but she's remembering things.
Yep. And we got Kyoko, of course.
We got Kyoko. Kirigiri.
So what are
That was a pretty cool interaction.
Yeah, it was good, because that was an interaction we haven't had. We haven't had a Kyoko interact with either of the main characters yet. So it was cool to get it. And we might not get her with Matsuda because we both talked about the fact that we both kind of think Matsuda might not make it out of this story, and by the time she makes it to Matsuda, who knows if he's even still alive, to be honest. Like, who knows? But
we gotta have one scene where we just walk into a room and someone's dead. Why not be Matsuda?
That would make sense. It's weird, though, because it would probably have to be Kyoko, because you've already talked about that you think Ryoko's going to kill Matsuda. You already kind of went into that spiel, I think, in the last video.
I mean, that's what Junko said to do.
And you think Junko's going to be a prophet in this regard.
It's Junko.
Fair. But it is interesting because... what are we thinking at this point about Ryoko? Like, where are we... What's the overall, like, Ryoko theories at this point? And did this change anything? This revelation?
I have no idea what to make of the explosion. That is just,
not really an explosion, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, the fucking glass shattering as she's refused. I don't know what the hell that means. We're going into, like, another genre.
I mean, that implies, like... Yeah, at the very least, some, like, power, like, strength of some kind. Like, it gets into, like, a different type of...
Yeah, that's just so far removed from what, like, Trigger Happy Havoc was. I don't even really have a theory for that.
I mean, to be fair, like, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if, like, you know, maybe Sakura could do something like that. But Ryoko is...
Not with just her mind.
Just ultimate, like, scream of death. Like, you know, who knows? But... Who knows exactly what happened either, because, again, it is Ryoko. It would be interesting. It would be interesting. This is actually a rare case where I'm kind of hoping we get a third. Like, I'm kind of hoping we stay here for a third chapter in a row. What's crazy though is if we do, I guess there's a chance that the perspective doesn't change again. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It is interesting though because Matsuda is the cover character of this volume, and you know, we got a lot of him early on, but we lately, you know, now we're starting to, like, the last time we got, I mean, we obviously chapter 6, of course, but now, you know, it seems like we're focusing more on Ryuko after that. Like, he had his kiss of death from Junko, and then we don't know where the hell he is now. Anyways, anything
As you
else?
just said, a kiss of death that killed him.
I didn't actually, but metaphorical kiss of death. But anyways, do you want to jump into chapter 9?
Yeah, let's keep going.
When Kyoko Kirigiri stepped in...
Hello, Kyoko.
Are
this
we
is
like...
Kyoko POV.
Oh, are we flipping it? Are we... Oh, it looks like they're gonna... I wonder if they're gonna, like, blitz through the scene, but through Kyoko's perspective.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool, actually. I like that a lot. Okay, Kyoko POV. We know you're hyped for that. You got Kyoko in the last chapter, and now we're getting Kyoko POV.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. When Kyoko Kirigiri stepped into the Neuroscience Institute, the girl was already lying down on the bed. She had heard rumors about her. Supposedly, she suffered from some form of memory impairment and had since been undergoing treatment here.
Seems the rumors were true then.
Regardless, it was fine. The more crucial detail was that Yasuke Matsuda wasn't there.
Not that I expected as much.
Having already anticipated that, she shifted gears and began her investigation of the room. With Matsuda's absence, she was free to examine as thoroughly as she liked without drawing attention to herself.
That said,
she eyed the girl that lay on the bed nearby.
I should be careful not to wake her.
She wanted to avoid any unnecessary hindrances. From there, Kyoko inspected each part of the lab carefully. After covering all other ground, she proceeded to the side of the bed.
As I thought, something's definitely suspicious.
The thought wasn't aimed toward the girl lying on the bed, but rather toward the bed itself. If she was curious, the only proper course of action would be to investigate the bed. As if it were already a settled matter, she began searching around the bed itself and then, finally, the floor that was obscured by the hanging bedsheets. And that was where she found the hidden storage space. Within the space were a black jersey and a matching pair of shoes. These, in addition to the flatbed cart that had also been stored there, led Kyoko to one simple conclusion. Yasuke Matsuda was involved with the murders of the steering committee. The only ones aware of the possible connection were Kyoko and her client, the headmaster of the school. Love that that's how she mentally thinks of it.
She refuses to acknowledge him.
That's so good. That's lovely writing. That said, the corpses had quickly
Completely
disappeared.
Unaware her very name is his laptop password.
Stuff like this just makes just makes it even better. Good stuff. That said, the corpses had quickly disappeared and hardly any decisive evidence had been found, which meant she had to look each possible clue over until she had exhausted its potential. Any evidence that had been found had been in an unexpected location. She didn't expect Yasuke Matsuda to have been involved in this, but if it was in fact the case, he may very well have an idea as to the whereabouts of the other two steering committee members. Yeah, so that confirms it. So Junko's essentially taken them all out then. Because if there's 4 steering committee members,
Nice.
2 of them were the bodies that Matsuda got rid of, and the other 2 were in the cell.
Which means they're working together.
So that's a part of her plan. She wanted to take them all out, and she has. So that... Well, I mean, it's like I said, it seems like it's a collaboration, but not intentional. Because, like, even Junko herself is like, where the hell did the body go?
Oh, you think he'd tell her everything in their collab? Of course not.
It's weird. Like, it doesn't... He seems to be on an opposite side from her, but his goals do... there are moments...
working, but he doesn't trust her.
Because I'm not sure that Junko... I think Junko, like, that's the thing. I think Junko didn't wanted to keep those bodies right where they were and have everyone find them.
That doesn't align with what he's trying to do.
That doesn't align with what he's trying to do. That's the thing. Like, there are like they whatever he's trying to do, which seems to be to keep Ryuko, you know, I think it all goes back to Ryuko. Like, when it comes to Matsuda's motivations, it seems pretty clear that he's all in on Ryuko, and he's willing to do any number of serious criminal acts to protect her in his mind.
Oh god, yes.
But what makes it weird is that him and Junko have some sort of weird dynamic as well. Having ignored Kyoko's warnings, all 4 members of the steering committee or their corpses were now missing. It seemed, however, that their location could finally be revealed. Whether or not it would be too late was a different matter entirely, but frankly it didn't matter to her. Whether they were saved or sacrificed was irrelevant. Her role as a detective was simply to expose the truths that were shrouded in mystery. Those were Kyoko's honest feelings on the matter.
Go on.
You can read this. This is like an internal monologue kind of thing.
Oh. Actually, perhaps the 2 cases are connected.
Originally, Kyoko had come here for an entirely different matter than the steering committee murders. She had come to look into the discovery of Soshun Murasame's body, which had been found in the faculty building. According to the school's physician, the last person to meet with Murasame prior to his death was Yasuke Matsuda. Afterward, however, Matsuda went missing. So this is actually kind of similar to what happened with Izuru.
Huh.
Like, Izuru was seemingly the murderer of all those people, and then he went missing. And now, ironically, the same thing happened with Matsuda.
A bit too coincidental.
And his current location remained unknown. If Kyoko was correct in her assumption that Murasame's death was a murder, then Yasuke Matsuda was a prime suspect. But if that really was the case, why kill Soshun Murasame? To deduce a possible motive, Kyoko had come to the laboratory where the man tended to shut himself away. But seeing as how it appeared Yasuke Matsuda wasn't just involved with Murasame's case, but the steering committees as well, it wouldn't be too far off the mark to say that he was now at the center of them both. To be involved with 2 cases at the same time like this was anything but coincidence.
If that's right, then what is his goal? What does he know? What is he hiding?
Yeah, those last 2 questions are very... I don't think we have a clue. The goal thing, I think it does all come back to Ryuko, but those last 2 questions, no clue.
Ultimate simp energy.
Still beneath the bed, the thoughts piled up in her mind when suddenly a sound from above caught her off guard. Are we actually going to get, like, the full scene, but with Kyoko's inner monologue instead of Ryuko's? I'm down.
Probably, yeah.
But interesting. Still beneath the bed, the thoughts piled up in her mind when suddenly a sound from above caught her off guard. It seemed the girl had woken up. It might be a good idea to ask her a few things. As someone who spends a fair time around Matsuda for treatment, it's possible that questioning her might reveal some new information. It might end up forcing the girl to realize a painful reality, but for the sake of uncovering the hidden truth, there was no other choice. Again, these were her true feelings. There wasn't much time left either. Kyoko was struck with impatient frustration. If she didn't move quickly, all of her effort would be for nothing. She would miss out on a potential lead. After all, Yasuke Matsuda most likely wasn't coming back. That was her intuition, but at the same time, it was something greater. It was the intuition of a detective belonging to the Kirigiri family. And it was that intuition that drove her forward. She had to find Matsuda's whereabouts to further her investigation. It was a necessary step in fulfilling her duty to complete her client's request, her duty to pin down the location of Izuru Kamakura, because she was a detective. In order to fulfill these duties, she began her interrogation of the girl.
While I'm here, I may as well confirm something with you too. So she doesn't think Matsuda's coming back at all.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Which, I mean, makes sense. She does suspect him of a murder at this point as well, in addition to the 2 bodies that she believes he hid. And unlike the murder, which he might be a prime suspect, she doesn't have any evidence. But the bodies that he hid, she has some evidence in that regard. Maybe not proof, but she definitely has some physical evidence now. Anyways, with that, she cued a list of questions in her head, using them to corner her, intently watching the girl's reactions at each and every point. She reached a conclusion. This girl doesn't know anything. Yeah, exactly. So now we're just getting the confirmation that she was basically gauging Ryoko's responses and stuff. The girl's constant state of confusion didn't seem to be an act, and judging by the extent of her forgetfulness, she would be fully unable to serve as an accomplice. In other words, there was no need for any further conversation with her. Rather than grow discouraged, Kyoko mulled over what the best course of action at this point might be, but before she could come up with an answer, "This has nothing to do with me!" The sudden shriek seemed to pierce her eardrums. Then, at the same time, a thunderous crash roared behind her. Instinctively, she turned to look and found the glass shards of the lab's door flying through the air. In the midst of the chaos, a boy appeared in the doorway. And on his face...
The little bugger, the ultimate spy.
Maybe. And on his face, like a god of death come to deliver a bad omen to Kyoko, a wicked smile appeared. I'm less sure now. I think you're right, because a boy...
smiles like that? Who's obsessed with Ryoko and coming to claim his prize as her body?
I don't know.
That was an entire chapter.
Yeah, that was a short one.
Was that the end one?
No, we have one more.
Oh, so we still got an hour and a half.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? It could be short, it could be long, God only knows. I have no memory. But if you look at our percentage, look at where we are now.
75%. That's a good cutoff point.
But we're going to get a little closer to that end. But yeah, chapter 9. So that was a short one. We got kind of an abridged version of the previous scene.
That was like early on game kind of chapter right there.
That was interesting because the entire point of that chapter was to basically be like, this is what Kyoko's thinking. Like, they didn't rehash all the conversation. They were just like, hey, they felt it was important to give us Kyoko's thoughts on the matter.
Very interesting.
Because they gave us the scene through Ryoko's point of view, and then they just were like, hey, this is what Kyoko's thinking. And and the only thing, like, yeah, because we got a tiny bit at the very beginning, like before Ryoko woke up, and then we got this tiny bit at the end that we found out that there was a boy appeared in the doorway and made a wicked smile, like a god of death come to deliver a bad omen to Kyoko, a wicked smile to appear. Like, that is so, like, aggressive that almost makes me think it's not.
Perhaps it is Matsuda.
God, I mean, Matsuda making a wicked smile would be new too, though. I don't know who this could be, to be honest. I mean, I think most likely case is still, you're right, that it's Kamishiro, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like anyone.
There's only really 3 people in the story that could give a wicked smile.
Yeah, I don't know. And be a boy, of course. That's honestly the problem. If you want to talk about wicked smile, I mean, I know who would be my number one candidate, but they don't qualify, I guess, in this regard. Anyways, Chapter
10.
Chapter 10, let's get it. Watching my scream shatter the door of the laboratory awakened me to my shocking new ability. Okay, so we're back to Ryoko. So this is now basically this whole episode, no Matsuda unless he shows up here.
You have a sonic screech.
The tale of the cornered little girl suddenly discovering her powers and seeking revenge. I was almost certain I'd seen that in a movie. But never mind that. More important, I was almost certain I'd seen that in a movie is interesting in and of itself. Can't quite place the movie, but
fuzzy,
yeah.
But a memory.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure if that's a legit reference to a film or not.
Unironically, it literally, like, I know you made the joke, but it literally does sound like something straight out of the X-Men. Like, for real. It really does. Like, I feel like that probably is a reference to a movie, but I feel like it's probably a reference to multiple movies. Like, that feels like a really cliched, like, the scream and the glass breaks. That just feels like a cliche movie thing. I can't even place it to anything specific.
That's fair.
Very superhero-y, though. I could definitely see it being like a DC or Marvel thing for sure. Or even other things that involve superpowers of some variety. But never mind that. More importantly, I have to keep my power from going berserk. It's gonna be so funny because now that we know that there's a boy there, part of me is wondering if this is like just a misunderstanding. That like something else made that happen, and she's just assuming that it was her.
More than likely,
because
although
that's a dong.
Her scream was enough to even
it was
damage
the timing.
The legendary Kirigiri. Yes.
God, I guess if we want to go a step further into the crazy, it could even be like was purposely set up to look like that, but probably not.
I wouldn't go that far.
I understand now. There's only one way to stop this rampage, and that's Matsuda. There's no secret or technique that could stop this overflow of power other than Matsuda examining my messed up head. I have to hurry. If I don't do something about this soon, something horrible will happen. That's why, in order to meet Matsuda, I'm going to have to use this uncontrollable power just one more time. Determined, I turn my gaze toward the wreckage, glaring at the back of Kirigiri's head. I focused all my concentration on it, entirely locked on, letting out all of my power with a scream. Oh my god. What is this, high school DxD now? Burst!
Sorry, but I'm a character from the first game. I am immortal compared to you.
Bro!
My superpower in this story is immortality.
Can we talk about how Ryuko literally just tried to explode Kyoko's head?
What a bitch.
Holy shit, Ryuko!
Holy fucking hell.
That's actually crazy, because she unironically thinks she has this, like, power. And she unironically tried to kill Kyoko just now. And then
some people do not deserve the power they are blessed with.
And then the girl's head didn't burst like a watermelon at all. So yeah, that makes sense. Huh? As I looked at Kirigiri's perfectly normal, unchanged head, I noticed someone's shadow standing among the wreckage and tilted my head in confusion.
So, you really were over here.
A low, threatening voice. The boy in the jet black uniform stepped noisily onto the wreckage of the overturned door, his equally black hair swaying back and forth. His tall, slim frame gave off the impression of being much tougher than it looked.
Oh,
like
fuck off, not this guy again.
Let him cook! Alright, Kyoko.
Too good for knocking? That's so funny. Yeah, like literally every other potato from class 78 was here before, and now it's just the one that wasn't here, and these two again.
Kyoko's words were cautious but cold.
Mind your business.
Snapping back with his own sharp words, the boy shifted his gaze between the two of us with his thin, reptile-like eyes.
Once again, the immortal has come.
I mean, he did say he was immortal. What the fuck? The moment I saw those eyes, the itchiness sprang back into my head again. Right away, I skimmed Ryuko Tanashi's memory notebook, and then I remembered. That's right, the man in black's name was Ishiki Madurai. Wait, but why? After all, he had been beaten up so many times right in front of me.
I know, he's just a fucking gag character. He's the box ghost of this story.
But, like, really serious and, like, dark instead of, like, comedic. It's ironic. It's like Flip, because the real villain is comedic. Like, the actual, like, threat. After all, he'd been beaten up so many times right in front of me. First, when he was crushed under a storage shelf. Second, when he was assaulted by the black shadow known as the Ultimate Despair. Third, when he was confronted by Mukuro Ikusaba right here in the Neuroscience Institute. That's a lot of stuff to remember. Even with all of that, just why?
I was gonna say that those are some very specific things you just brought up that you most likely
I feel
did
like
not
those are
write
probably.
down.
I was gonna say, even if she did write it all down, they're probably in different parts of her notebook. So remembering that one after another is interesting. Anyways, even with all of that, just why?
Are you surprised to find me in good health?
Answering as though he had been reading my mind, Madurai stretched out his arms to an unsettling length and smiled. It was an eerie smile, resembling a crescent moon, which almost made it mask-like.
I've said it before, haven't I? I'm immortal.
As if agreeing with his boast, the glass beneath his feet chimed. I just wanted to see Matsuda, but all I get are these people surrounding me, all speaking nonsense.
Trying to get anything out of that girl is a futile effort. Who are you?
Madurai faced Kirigiri with a cold stare that would have frozen a normal person, but Kirigiri stared right back at him, shaking it off like it was nothing as she replied.
You were originally investigating the disappearance of the student council, correct?
Okay, so she's aware of that much, as it pertains to Madurai. Madurai raised his eyebrows, surprised.
You know who I am? I've just overheard a few things.
Kirigiri raised her chin and, after a brief pause, continued speaking.
What I do know is that you are not immortal. After all, your ability isn't all-powerful. It definitely has its limits. Isn't that right? Hope's Peak Student Council's ultimate bodyguard. That's something only the Student Council would know. Where the hell did you overhear something like that?
Well, I mean, unsurprisingly, we've confirmed that he's not immortal. So there is a trick to this.
Yeah, but his head got fucking bludged in.
So there's a trick to this, clearly. A peculiar sound arose from the back of Madurai's mouth.
Who's talking?
Madurai.
If your ears are that good, then I'm sure you know something about this. So come on, tell me. Who's the guy behind the tragedy of Hope's Peak? Where's the bastard that killed the student council? Haven't you been listening? Asking is pointless. Along with that girl over there, I don't know a thing about it. No, that's a lie. What makes you think that? My intuition. Do I need a reason other than that?
I mean, Kirigiri makes a lot of decisions based on her intuition. Interesting, Madurai.
I know a lot about intuition. In fact, a fellow classmate of mine is the ultimate psychic.
Sure.
The pause was her struggling to get it out.
Yeah, as he said that, Madurai's intimidating presence seemed to grow stronger. The glass beneath his feet continued to shatter from the weight as he stepped forward, and naturally, I began to step back. I think this is Kyoko.
Hey.
Yeah. Remaining cautious of Madurai, Kirigiri half turned to me and spoke.
Judging from what he's saying, you've driven him off multiple times, haven't you?
You shouldn't expect too much from me, I replied, weakly turning my head toward her. I love how this is technically a Ryoko perspective, and like so far it's been mostly Kyoko.
She's kind of lost control.
Yeah, it's mostly been Kyoko and Madurai.
Perspective?
I don't really remember, but every incident was just a coincidence, and it really looks like he's immortal too. While speaking, I carefully glanced towards Madurai. His sharp eyes glared back at me in return. Panicking, I quickly averted my gaze. It's impossible. We can at least take advantage of our numbers, right? Like maybe one of us becomes a decoy and the other runs for it? That's the only way. I was attempting to casually hint that she should be the decoy, though I wasn't sure she understood the suggestion. Madurai flipped his greasy long hair.
So, what are you going to do? Behave and fess up? Or should I beat you till you talk? Do you think you could hurry and make up your mind?
Oh, like I said, I really don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
Kirigiri confidently shot back in a sharp contrast to my stuttering. She had almost nothing to do with the situation, but despite that, her resolve didn't seem to waver at all. It was almost like she was being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. I'm sure she had her reasons, but I would like it very much if I could avoid getting dragged into this.
Seems like you won't budge.
As his voice grew more threatening, a silent smile spread across his face.
Looks like I have no choice then. I'll use my true power. I'll warn you, it is unlike anything you've seen before. And it's a pain, but I'll deal with it for the both of you in one go.
His slender body began to sway left and right. The next moment...
And this is to go even further beyond.
Plus Ultra, I guess. The next moment, a mysterious
it's a Dragon Ball
sensation...
reference.
Yeah, but... Yeah, it's the same vibe, though. The next moment, a mysterious sensation invaded my body. As if I had become dizzy, my vision began to blur. Madurai's appearance in front of me seemed to split into two. But the only thing splitting into two was Madurai. The rest of the world around him remained exactly like always. What? No matter how many times I blinked, the scene before me didn't change. My eyes weren't playing tricks on me. There really were 2 Madurais standing there.
I'll introduce myself once more.
The both of them spoke at the same time in perfect harmony. If you want, we could try talking at the same time, but if otherwise you can do both.
Which one
I'll
do you
do the
want to be?
bottom one. I'll be bottom.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. My name is Yoshiki Madurai.
My name is Shiki Madurai.
We were not even close.
Not even close, no. So, I guess, I mean, based on those names, neither of them are Ishiki. So, it's got to be twins then. That's got to be the trick.
Fuck?
So we did kill these. So we killed one of them, and there's just I don't even know how many. I say twins, but it's got to be at least triplets, if not more.
Yeah. What? How did one enter the what?
So we've killed one, but there's a bunch of them, and they all. I assume annoying. they all act in like they all live out one life, probably.
What the hell? What?
I guess that.
What the fuck?
I guess that is, if you think about it, ultimate bodyguard. I mean, even if you kill one, there's still more.
All right then.
Interesting, but see, this is the thing, though, right? Like with Madurai, they keep portraying him as like almost supernatural, but then the explanation in Danganronpa is always something that is like blurring the lines, but it's they never go over the edge. It's always like trying to fool you into thinking that it's something supernatural.
Right.
Like they're always fucking with you. I mean, the Ryuko one was literally just she thought she did something and she didn't do it. But yeah, anyways, the slim long bodies of the left Madurai and the right Madurai seemed intertwined in a scene so creepy it sent shivers up my spine.
You ready,
Kyoko.
look, and move all as one. Seems like what I heard was true then.
Kirigiri's words were cautious, but still sounded unfazed. Once again, the Madurai's creepy voices came out in sync. You could just read it once.
As I said, just where the hell did you hear about such things?
The Madurai... Oh, yeah, sorry, this is Kirigiri.
The Madurai brothers. Octuplets from Ishiki Madurai to Yashiki Madurai.
Alright, so there's 8 of them.
Fuck that.
Kirigiri noted.
Those who know about them refer to them as the ultimate multiple birth siblings. Due to effectively utilizing their shared understanding, their teamwork has also given them the signature alias of the ultimate bodyguard, which is the Madurai brothers' greatest talent. At least, that's what I've heard.
Octuplets? 8 identical twins.
That's half of them. That's half as many children as I wanted to birth for Matsuda.
Oh my god. 8 identical twins from Ishiki Madurai to Yashiki Madurai. The ultimate multiple birth siblings. They would... Now, that's probably a pretty direct translation. I'm sure if this was like one of the games, I'm sure the official translation, they would try to shorten that to something else.
Nah.
But yeah,
it's better
fine.
like that.
The truth
the
of the Madurai brothers...
multiple birth siblings.
The
oh,
truth
you really
of the
get an ultimate for anything.
Yeah. The truth of the Madurai brothers' greatest talent. That's cheating, isn't it? I shout desperately. That's not immortality at all. It doesn't even make sense. Then the 2 Madurai's mouths creaked open.
Well, that's just how it is.
Wait, was there one more than there should have been? And at that moment,
God.
I heard footsteps behind me. Both Kirigiri and I turned around at the same time, and as if blocking the doorway to the back of the laboratory, there stood another Madurai.
I'm Roshiki Madurai. Okay, like, this is looking a little bit, impossible to deal with. Like, even with Kyoko here, and I know she could probably kick one of their asses.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure that she could. Like, the weird thing about, Madurai is we've seen him lose 3 times, but he's lost to Junko, Mukuro, and whatever the hell, ultimate analyst Ryuko when she's actually realizing she's an ultimate analyst. So I do feel he does seem more nerfed than he is, because he's had to fight people that are absolutely ridiculous.
This is still not looking good, though.
But yeah, I agree. At best, Kyoko can take one. That's where I am on that. If she even can. He marked the arrival of the third one. The three of them spoke in succession.
With this, it seems you've lost a numbers game. That's what you get for letting your guard down. We're going to beat reality into you till you fess up.
That's crazy. The voices rang from the front right, then left, and then from behind. They had circled us, leaving me at a loss. Hey, what should we do? I turned to Kirigiri, my voice clinging to hope.
This isn't the time to be thinking about that.
The two Madorais in front of us kicked what was once the door in our direction, turning the wreckage into lethal projectiles. I think that's Kyoko.
I did it.
Oh, it didn't come through for me. Kirigiri rammed into me, using the force of her body to push me in the opposite direction. The wooden shrapnel missed us at a hair's breadth.
Watch out!
The shove knocked me on my rear end, but with no time to lose, I quickly stood up once more. Just at that moment, the collar of my shirt was pulled from behind. Ah! Not given enough time to process the pain or pull myself free, I was thrown, like a doll thrown by a rampaging child in a tantrum. My body flew through the air until it and my head hit the wall, finally coming to a stop. The sudden impact caused my vision to fade.
Head was just starting to recover as well.
I know. Girl just got, potentially a concussion and,
fucking factory reset.
That would be so funny. Holy shit. Now, honestly, thinking about it, though, it could have the opposite effect. This could actually help her memory. Who knows?
Maybe. God.
All I could tell was that I was in the hallway. It was difficult for me to comprehend just how easily I was thrown from the laboratory, but regardless of how it happened, I now had to deal with the entirety of my body throbbing in pain. My neck, back, and behind had taken a much harder beating than expected. Oh, your behind had taken a much harder beating than expected, huh? Wild. I tried to push through the sudden... I tried to push through the sudden loss of feeling, along with the frustration that accompanied the numbness. Then, as if appearing out of nowhere, Madorai stood in front of me. Seeming to stretch up to the ceiling, his eyes looked down on me, making him look more reptilian than ever from the sharp angle. But simply, it was terrifying.
You've gotten away time after time again.
Even though I heard his words, his mouth didn't seem to move.
But with two people, this should be easy enough.
Then from behind the Madorai that stood before me stepped out a different Madorai. It seemed to have been that Madorai who was talking. The two Madorais stood there in my blurred vision, creating a true scene of despair! Not only that, but with me having been thrown into the hallway, I couldn't rely on Kirigiri any longer.
I'll ask you one more time.
They once again spoke in harmony, then back to back.
In what way are you related to this case? Who should I be taking out my revenge on? Where is that bastard? Or maybe it's really you? Hurry up and talk.
They pressed me, but right at that moment, I suddenly felt a breeze from above my head. Looking toward the source, I noticed the hall's window was open. As soon as I saw it, inspiration flew into my mind.
It looks like you won't talk unless I force it out of you.
At the same time, the Madorai's hands reached out toward me. There was no time to hesitate. I dodged through the arms as I shot upright. Without losing speed, I jumped with all of my might onto the windowsill. In a swift motion, I aimed my body toward the rear garden, took a leap, and that's when I realized this was the third floor.
What?
The expressions of the left-behind Madorais changed to simultaneous surprise. Throwing myself out of the hallway's third floor window was nowhere to be found on her list of expectations. Or mine, for that matter.
If you're trying to not look suspicious, you're failing horribly.
Actually, the surprise on my face was probably even greater than theirs. And with that surprise, my body, ensnared by gravity, continued to fall straight down toward the garden. Ah! What followed the fall was a shockwave. It wasn't fatal, however. In fact, it didn't even take my consciousness. Miraculously, I fell directly into some shrubbery, which mostly cushioned my fall. That was just 100.
You fell right into Junko and Ashima's arms.
God,
just catches you on the floor.
You're gonna take my breath away saying stuff like that. That's like a dream come true.
So, anyways, we meet again, Ryoko.
Oh, that was just 100% coincidence. I didn't know about it. I didn't aim for it, and I didn't expect it. Sheer coincidence. In other words, I mean, obviously her ultimate analyst, I'm assuming, kicked in a little there, but I think the other thing that kicked in is her memory. She doesn't even remember she remembered, but I bet she remembered that there was shrubbery there.
She doesn't even remember she remembered.
Like it's a subconscious thing.
But I bet she remembered. There was a lot of remembering going on there.
Yeah. Like she instinctively knew without even recognizing that fact.
Yeah.
Because she didn't even realize that she was jumping off the third floor. But like they said, like they're even emphasizing, like, I had no idea. That was a total coincidence, which means it wasn't. Even though I couldn't understand it, I took the coincidence like it was fated and felt silently grateful. Still, the impact was strong enough to numb most of my body, and my arms, legs, and face were all being stabbed by the prickly bits of the shrubbery. Despite the unpleasant feeling, I calmly told myself to escape, and my arms and legs slowly regained feeling. Once that was taken care of, I proceeded to drag myself out on all fours. While crawling along the ground, I ran into 2 pairs of black shoes. Slowly, I raised my head up to see 2 Madorais looking down on me.
I'm Shishiki Madorai. I am Yashiki Madorai.
Okay, so these are new ones. They were different Madorais from the ones on the 3rd floor. It seemed as though they had also been called out.
Well, we certainly didn't expect you to come falling down.
By sheer reflex, a gulping sound came from my throat. But despite this nightmare of a situation, I didn't feel confused, or scared, or uneasy. Instead, what I felt was that intense itchiness in my brain. And along with that itchiness came a premonition. I won't die. I won't die here. How it arose in my mind was unknown, even to myself, but that was exactly what the premonition said. I was almost completely certain about that.
What's with the relaxed face? It's pissing me off.
The 2 Madorais seemed to intertwine like snakes as they advanced, examining my expression. In their eyes was a thick concentration of murderous intent.
Why don't you understand the situation you're in for once?
Together, the Madorais formed a fist, and together they raised them up. But I was looking past them, focusing instead on the girl behind their shoulders. It seemed that my premonition from earlier...
Either Junko or Mukuro.
Yeah, probably. It seemed that my premonition from earlier conveniently matched the situation I was in now.
You shouldn't pry into the affairs of outsiders so often.
That definitely doesn't sound like a Junko line. Could be Mukuro, could be maybe someone else. The Madorais turned around at the same time, and the girl, who was initially so far away she seemed the size of my thumb, suddenly appeared directly behind them. The itchiness in my brain. At that point, I remembered. That girl's name was Mukuro Ikusaba.
Hey, she's back. I guess we're not quite done with this school yet, with this class.
Itchiness in her brain, she remembered Mukuro.
She's remembering.
Wild.
And that's the first time it's clicked that she remembered.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then, interesting line, you shouldn't pry into the affairs of outsiders so often. It's an interesting thing for Mukuro to say. I don't know what to make of that.
I'll be happy not to say anything to anyone, but you should probably lay off that girl.
Then, with both hands, she firmly gripped both Madorai's arms.
Poles.
As their expressions quickly shifted to anguish, they fell to their knees. Jesus Christ.
That was a mistranslation. It was not arms.
Oh my god. That would be funny, but like, I don't know. I mean,
up.
on the flip side,
Your heads won't last very long at this rate.
That's crazy. I mean, not to say she wouldn't, but clearly they're trying to get across the point that she doesn't need to do that.
Talk about a death grip, lady.
I know, right? I can't even imagine. But they fell to their knees.
Give up. Your hands won't last very long at this rate.
Her grip on them was so strong that I could hear it making a noise. Oh, God. Just where is that slim girl hiding all that power? Either way, the ones that understood her strength firsthand were the suffering Madorais themselves.
You understand the meaning of the words. Firmly grasp it.
Shoutouts to Patrick.
Don't screw with me.
The kneeling Madorais screamed almost at the same time. Behind Ikusaba, who was in turn behind the Madorais, emerged two different Madorais leaping toward her.
Oh my fucking god.
Right and left leg. I think unless these are the returning ones, I think this would mean that we've gotten them all out of hiding, besides the dead one. Right and left leg shot out in symmetry.
No, we still have a seventh one.
Okay, yeah.
Because we've met in pairs.
Right and left leg shot out.
No, I'm wrong. There was 3 upstairs, right?
Yeah, 3 popped up upstairs.
Yeah, okay, this is all of them.
So yeah, either this is all of them or some of the ones that were up with Kirigiri came down. Could be either way. Anyways, right and left leg shot out in symmetry in a set of flying kicks towards Ikusaba. Without seeming phased in the slightest, she released the arms of the Madorais in front of her and dodged the incoming kicks in one fluid motion. The 2 brothers who had attempted the attack shifted their positions nimbly before landing. The 4 Madorais had Ikusaba completely surrounded, and I have no concerns whatsoever. I still feel pretty confident that
I'm concerned for the
Mukuro's
boys.
got this. Yeah, exactly.
What do we do about that girl over there? Leave that one to Roshiki. Can you handle that by yourself? It's not like she's accustomed to combat. First, let's take care of this one. Yeah, that would be simpler.
As they discussed their strategy with their ridiculously similar voices, their firm watch over Ikusaba did not waver even once. Yeah, they understand that like Ikusaba's a beast, even if they don't, I get the feeling that they don't truly know, but they have a pretty good understanding.
Of course not. They just said it's not like she's accustomed to combat.
No, they're talking about Ryuko.
Oh.
They're saying, like, Rashiki can handle her by herself, and all the others that are here are like, let's take care of her. That's why, when they were talking, they never even took their eyes off of Mukuro.
Oh, okay.
Ikusaba showed no sign of feeling cornered, however. Instead, she was rapidly glancing between each of their faces, seemingly murmuring her strategy to herself.
If I take down these 4, and just leave one for Kirigiri, got it. All according to plan. They planned this?
They being Mukuro and Junko,
Kirigiri?
presumably? Nah, I think Junko. I don't think Kirigiri's in on it at all. I mean, maybe Mukuro's working with Kyoko. But, obviously, we know who Mukuro's really working with, but that doesn't mean she wouldn't. They are classmates, so maybe. True. But Kyoko is kind of a lone wolf, though, so I don't know. Either way, Mukuro has a plan. Whether it's hers or not, she's working someone's plan. All according to plan. As those words reached their ears, the Madorais reacted instinctively. In unison, all 4 of their voices shouted out,
"What the hell are you talking about?"
Ikusaba, of course, responded calmly.
Nothing really. At least, nothing you would need to know. All this time, and you guys still haven't found any of the valuable information you're supposedly looking for in the first place. That's exactly why I'm telling you now. You should probably give up. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Damn, shoutouts to Mukuro. She's a quiet savage. Holy shit.
The ultimate savage.
Really? I guess she's got that in common with her sister. But it is funny because
No, Junko would say that, but in like 30 more buzzwords.
yeah, exactly. Mukuro's got none of the fluff. But I was gonna say that oh crap, I lost it. Whatever. The 4 intimidated voices attacked Ikusaba all at once. Oh, I was gonna say, I know what I was gonna say. I was gonna comment on the fact that, yeah, like all this time they've been like looking into this, and Mukuro's like, Jesus Christ, how shitty are you guys? Like, Kyoko has found all this shit. Like, Kyoko is progressing in her investigation, just like we probably planned. Ryoko can't even remember shit, but she's still learning shit. Matsuda is probably out there learning shit. Like, all of them, all of our puppets are getting closer to the prize, just like we planned, but you fucking idiots can't figure anything out.
Get lost, side characters.
Because it does come across like I said, like all these characters are playing into Junko's plan. Like, I don't think they're inherently it goes into DR1. Like, in DR1, like, in the end, Junko wanted them to figure everything out.
Yeah.
Because when you figure everything
either
out...
way works.
Yeah, because when you figure everything out, the reality, the truth, is even more hopeless. So it's like... And that's just the way that she sets out her narrative. So she wants people to find out the truth, because when you find out the truth, you're not going to like what you find.
You think we can give up now? We swore to them. We'll keep going for the student council. We'll prove that to you. We swear to protect the student council's honor. We'll protect it to the death. We'll take our revenge on you. We won't let anyone get in our way.
From right to left, from front to back, their frustrated, interchanging words flew through the air. In response, Ikusaba simply scratched her head, sighing without a care.
I feel like I can relate to what you guys are going through, though. No, that's a lie. I actually can't relate to it at all. But I understand at least.
That's kind of a Junko like style thing to say, but just in a really deadpan way. Like, yeah, I understand. No, I'm just lying.
But the girl responsible for what you're going through is different. She gets nothing out of understanding you. Your thoughts or your hopes, things like that, they mean nothing to her. The one who set this whole thing, the one who set up this whole ordeal doesn't give a damn about your feelings. So trying to extract your revenge on her is futile. And you just gave away the gender.
That's like really direct. I mean, like, she's clearly saying this because it doesn't matter. Like, she's like, it literally doesn't matter. You guys, it doesn't matter at all. Grind, 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 grind. The sound of each of them grinding their teeth simultaneously filled the garden.
You don't know anything about us, but you're aware of the tragedy of Hope's Peak, it seems. That's convenient. We'll listen to what you have to say, but only after we thrash ya.
The 4 Madorais each bent down slightly in a prepared stance.
Even after I warned you. I really didn't want to deal with any more victims. Victim?
Once again, the Madorais all shouted in unison, encircling her like a pack of wild dogs as they bared their teeth and roared. This might actually be part of the I feel like the implication might also be she might have told them that because she's just outright gonna kill them.
Possibly, yeah. Do you know about our brothers? Where did they disappear to? What happened to Ishiki, Nishiki, and Mishiki?
Okay, so 3 of them have actually... So all of the ones that we fought are actually out of the picture then. It's just been 4 here then. Or 5. Because, yeah, that makes sense. So there's the 4 here that are confronting... The 4 that are confronting Mukuro, and then there's the 1 that's still with Kyoko. So the 3 that we've taken out have been taken out of the picture. So, like, obviously 1, died.
When did we take the other 2 out?
Well, they didn't die as far as we knew, but there was the Ryoko one, there was the Junko one, and there was the Mukuro one. Ryoko beat 1, Junko beat 1, and Mukuro beat 1.
And they all died?
Well, I'm assuming Mukuro took care of it in
wait.
other cases.
Yeah, but wait. Okay, so they start with 8.
Yes.
We lost one, but there were 3 upstairs.
Yes.
And there's 4 down here.
Yes. 2 of the ones upstairs came down. That pair that showed up behind Mukuro were 2 of the 3 upstairs. Because Mukuro even said it's going according to plan. I'm going to take 4, and Kyoko's going to take 1. And that's apparently according to Mukuro's plan, or Junko's plan, or God knows whose plan. So the numbers add up. But the important detail here is that now we know that the other 2 that were taken out, the Ryoko one and the Mukuro one, were also dealt with, presumably by Mukuro. So
interesting.
They're either captured or dead, but they're out of the picture. And that's
all right then. That clears it up.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Did you read all of it? This line?
Yep.
Okay. Ikusaba cut her eyes to each in turn, responding with a freezing glaze.
Don't come near me.
Oh, she's literally saying, this is like the most, merciful thing ever. She's literally saying, you better not. Those words alone triggered it. A sound rang out as though the air itself had ruptured, as the 4 brothers kicked off the ground with all their might, heading toward Ikusaba from 4 directions all at once.
Like I said, it's pointless.
Just as Ikusaba was about to receive the brunt of the attack, she dodged them completely in one fluid motion.
No matter how many of you come at me at once, your base actions never change. That kind of peck mentality attack won't make it through me.
While murmuring in that perfectly calm voice, she moved at a speed that was incomprehensible to my eyes. The Madarai's attacked with such coordination that even their breaths were perfectly synced, and yet Ikusaba anticipated their every movement, dodging them brilliantly. It was almost like she was from a different dimension entirely.
I won't let anyone oppose her.
Oh, it's coming out? Is it coming out? Even in the midst of her dance, she murmured. Her breath didn't falter once.
Because this is for despair.
Okay. I mean, we really haven't even seen her, have a moment in this story where she's even acknowledged, anything like this. We know... we know what her deal is, but we're actually, seeing some... Yeah. Because we just don't know, exactly what her relationship is with Junko, or Despair, for that matter. The Madarai's continued to repeat their ineffectual... Yeah, I know, but...
And she is a dedicated sister to her younger one.
It does come across
a cute
that
little
way.
adorable Junko Inashima, who's cuter than 100 chihuahuas combined.
I don't know if I think that's what their relationship's like, but nonetheless, there's definitely a love of some kind. Definitely a sisterly love, I assume, but it's very...
Possibly more than that.
Hard to tell. It's just hard to tell. We just don't have enough yet, but it's cool to see her acknowledging that, this is the first direct, show of any kind of reverence for both Despair and for Junko. The Madarai's continued to repeat their ineffectual attacks as Ikusaba began to move faster, rolling like a torrent. Eventually, the flood mercilessly swallowed them up. In that moment, it was entirely one-sided. It had begun one-sided, and it ended one-sided. When Ikusaba finally came to a stop, the 4 Madarai's lay around her feet. She hadn't turned the tables on them or anything. She had just decimated them.
That's GG. It's over.
Ikusaba murmured, looking away from the Madarai's. She let out a small sigh, and her eyes then turned to me. Astonished, I stood there, forgetting what I had even been doing beforehand.
Why are you so strong?
That's actually me, but...
Oh, of course, yes, of course.
Yeah. Why are you so strong?
It's all I'm good for, after all.
You know that Junko beat that into her in one form or another.
I don't know, I feel like she gave in pretty willingly.
Probably, but... And honestly, that would probably make Junko even more depressed because Mukuro gave in so easily. But I kind of agree.
How are you with
I do get that vibe. Yeah, it's I didn't even have to break you.
That's no fun.
Yeah, I could totally see that. That whole thing it sounds right. As she replied, she didn't have anything that one could call an expression on her face. It was almost like she was wearing an emotionless mask, its only distinct feature being specks of blood splattered here and there. Are we gonna get a picture of Mukuro? Yeah! Yo!
Those thighs.
Yeah, it looks like we could see, like, either panties or a thong,
Jesus
too.
Christ. Like, they match Sakura's fists. Jesus Christ.
I mean, it makes sense. She is the ultimate soldier. And to be fair, I will say the Danganronpa Zero drawings have been thick in the leg area. Just in general.
I feel like they intentionally kind of exasperate the thickness a bit.
Yeah.
If you look at Junko's opening picture compared to her sprite, it's night and day.
Sure. And part of that's just the difference in, like, you know, like, these are just straight drawings as opposed to, like, a game thing, so I can understand that. But nonetheless, it definitely shows.
One fell swoop.
That's crazy. Also, always nice to see the pink blood, of course.
Naturally.
That's crazy, though. It is funny, too, because they do make her look, like, all thin up top, and then you got...
It's like, oh, we've got another
that lower body
Tatsumaki.
strength is crazy. Yeah.
We got another Tatsumaki. It's like all filled out the bottom. It's like, whoa, what happened?
I know, right? I don't think Mukuro's quite as bad in that regard as Tatsumaki, but I get your
I don't know.
point.
From this shot, she looks a bit like Squidward in the Krabby Patty episode.
Oh god, that's funny. Holy shit.
Thigh
It's
power.
like, it goes straight to your thighs. My thighs?
And then you'll blow up.
It's so good. So
Those
good.
are
Holy
thunder
shit.
thighs.
Oh my god. So just tell me when you want to move on from this glorious picture.
I kind of assumed the chapter was done, honestly.
It might be, but I'm not sure until I move on from this picture.
This is great. Like I said, it's nice to see Mukuro at all.
Mm-hmm.
So rare in this series. Yeah.
So
I'm
far,
ready.
at least. I mean, you know, we gotta find ways to get Mukuro, please. Yep, we're not done.
Oh
Why
my good lord.
Why did you save me?
Well, it's just because.
Just because? Ikusaba nodded and dropped her gaze down to her feet. After a few moments of silence, she gently opened her mouth again.
It's kind of like an RPG. A video game.
A video game? Is it really?
Just your typical RPG or something. The people who live in that world, it looks like they have their own will, but that's all just appearances. In the end, they're just scripted to act in a way convenient for the game to progress. It's the same with the protagonist, but the protagonist doesn't even realize what he is.
Oh, that's really on the money. Oh, that's really on the money. It's the same with the protagonist.
DDLC?
But that, I mean, sure, but like, she has a point. Like, this kind of applies to almost all video games, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just the difference is like a game like DDLC gets into the meta commentary of that. But the thing here that's crazy is it's the same with the protagonist, but the protagonist doesn't even realize what he is. Because obviously the parallel is Ryuko. But, like, that's the thing, is that she's gonna most likely say, hey, everything in this story has, I'm almost positive she's gonna say everything in this story has gone exactly as planned. Like, I mean, when you look at it, just like Danganronpa 1, Trigger Happy Havoc was pretty much the same thing.
That is true.
Like, that's the crazy thing about Junko. It's like,
But will it play out quite as well?
Yeah, but that's the thing about Junko. Everything pretty much goes to plan for her so far in this universe. What are you trying to say?
Well, my fight with the Mother Eyes wasn't a coincidence. Actually, it's the same with the Mother Eyes coming from the Neuroscience Institute. And with keeping Kurigiri's unnecessary self out of the way. Everything was determined from the beginning. Damn, she even had a plan for Kirigiri.
So they're basically like, they know that Kyoko is a little too good at this for her own good, so they've managed things in a way to keep her
There's contingencies plans
to keep
for
her just far enough, just long enough for what they need to do. What do you mean determined?
The same goes for me. I'm just moving along with her scenario, as scripted, moving according to her will. Only my purpose to prevent the story from taking the wrong path.
That's crazy. Now she's just outright saying that Junko's essentially scripted this, like she's literally wrote the fucking book.
Well, yeah, and she's
nuts.
okay being the NPC.
And yeah, she's just like, I literally exist just to prevent us veering off the wrong path. Her?
I'm talking about Junko and Nishima, of course.
Yeah, and then straight up tells her... It's so interesting, Mukuro talking to Ryuko about this stuff. It's just... It's such a different vibe.
It's
but
a nice treat.
It's coming... But it's coming from the same place, as different as she comes across to Junko. You know it's coming from the same motivations. And yeah. At that moment, it felt as though my blood had frozen. As expected, everything returns to Junko and Oshima. You're goddamn right.
Are you starting to remember her name? If you're saying as expected.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, too. Yeah. Everything trying to get me or Matsuda involved, it's all because of that horrible girl. Wait, what? At that point, I suddenly realized
I thought there was another one for a minute.
Then you're working with Junko and Oshima? As I glared at her accusingly, Ikusaba responded with hesitation as if embarrassed.
Well, working with her, it's more like she's my sister.
Okay, admitting that to her. Huh? It was too sudden and too casual a confession. Mukuro Ikusaba and Junko and Oshima are sisters? Wait, that's even worse than just working together, isn't it?
But even though we're sisters, and we're connected by blood, none of that means anything to her. All that she looks for is despair, other people's despair, her own despair. That's all that exists for her.
For a moment, it seemed like Ikusaba's eyes were gazing somewhere far away.
That's why whoever it may be, whatever situation it may be, whatever world it may be, it's all meaningless to her unless she is dealing with despair. That's the world of Junko and Nishima, the girl known as the ultimate despair.
What the? But that's ridiculous!
Yeah, it is, but that's just how Junko is.
Jesus. As I heard her response, I felt a new sensation of dread. It's so cool to hear someone, like I said, an actual, like, confirmed, like, despair, like, talk about Junko.
Yep.
This is the first time we've gotten that, either.
Her sister, no less.
Yeah. The only despair that we actually 100% know of.
For real.
We haven't met any of the... like I said, maybe Ryuko, even Matsuda potentially, maybe, but, like, not in that context. Not in the true, like, they're locked in their despairs, like, in the moment type thing. As I heard her response, I felt a new sensation of dread. This time it was creeping up from my feet, bit by bit.
I think this is you.
No, this is definitely... No, 100% this is Mukuro.
Are you sure?
Yes.
She really is ridiculous, to the point of despair. She's the lowest, worst sister ever. But that's why I can't leave her alone. That's why I have to help her. After all, I'm the only one who can understand her.
Then, as I looked at Ikusaba's expression, I was suddenly taken aback. The ever so emotionless face was smiling. Ecstatic. Oh! Oh! She's giving us an emotional reaction, and she's smiling super bright at just how fucking awful Junko is. Oh, it's coming out. Oh, it's coming out.
I don't know if she attracts despair, or despair attracts her, but she've lived a whole life with despair by her side. She lived while immersed in despair. That's why she began looking for despair in others. She began to enjoy pushing people into despair. But That's normal. It's no different than someone cursed by misfortune falling into hatred for those who are better off than them. But that's what's special about her, was that she learned to enjoy inflicting despair upon herself. That's how the link to despair began. As she chased down despair, she pushed it onto others along the way. Doing so caused her to crave falling into despair even more. And because of that chain of despair, the ultimate despair was born.
Yeah, that tracks from what we know.
What a great origin story.
It's just so interesting to hear it from her sister, who's also like clearly cares about her in her own weird way. While she spoke, it was like she fell into a fever. The expressions on her face slowly turned into ecstasy. It was so completely absurd that it would have been difficult for anybody to think. She's literally getting horny thinking about it.
I know.
What
I told you.
Oh, peak.
This is a little more than sister love.
We're finally getting
The
it!
incest memes never die in this series.
Let's
They
go!
just get stronger.
That's insane, though. See, that's insane, though, because, if anything, Juko probably doesn't give it to her because she wants it.
Exactly.
But it goes both ways, though, because they both would probably feel terrible about it, so maybe she would... See, it's like a contradiction, just like everything with Juko. It's so completely absurd that it would have been difficult for anybody to think of it as anything but a joke. But I could tell that this was real. It might have been the hazy memories of Junko and Oshima inside me that led to that conclusion.
You don't get it, right? That's fair. I don't think anybody could. But only I can understand.
Consumed by ecstasy, even Ikusaba's breathing had begun to turn right. Is she about to come? What the fuck?
Only I'm able to understand her. That's why she needs me. But she still hasn't realized it. But maybe she's only pretending not to? It's because she's so shy.
Oh my god, Despair Mukuro coming out? Oh, this is amazing. And I can tell that you're continuing to play Mukuro on the other line.
Speak. Keep going.
Seeing this intoxicated version of Ikusaba continue to talk like that repelled me. It was obvious to me now that she didn't have normal feelings for Juko and Oshima. Oh my god, we're even acknowledging it. But that sort of thing shouldn't have anything to do with me. That's right.
This entire franchise is just one giant incest pool.
God, it's so based. This is crazy, though, because this is like obviously you have your theory, and I'm sure that this makes your theory, like, you feel stronger about your theory, because this is just unironically Mukuro, like, has feelings for Junko, and not sisterly feelings. I mean, those two, probably, but you know.
I mean, have you seen Junko?
I mean, I get it, and this makes sense, but it's still crazy to actually just, like, be this open about it. Like, we're just outright confirming that Mukuro is, like... It's not surprising that she's obsessed with Juko, like, we expected that, but to actually see it, it's the difference between the implication and the reality. We talked about this with Junko, right? It's the same thing. Like, we got to see just how crazy Junko is, not just the implication of it. And in this same story, now we're getting to see not just, like, the implication, but we're getting to actually see that Mukuro unironically, like, has a creepy relationship with Junko, which is not surprising.
She's a bit of a yandere for her own sister.
And it's so good, too, with her character, right? Because she's so emotionless, and she's, like, so dead inside, and then, of course, Junko brings out this in her. And it's like, that's such a great contrast. It also makes me wish that we could see this in some form or fashion. Oh, visually.
If she lived longer, she would have been great friends with Toko.
They have a lot in common. Mukuro's less of a creep, just in general. But they do have a lot in common.
They both understand the importance of having a master.
Yeah.
Mukuro's mistress.
Yep.
Toko's master.
Yep. So
both
good.
Can share stories and tips. It's like...
crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean, bro, I mean, we haven't seen what it's like in this timeline for all we know, we do have like Jill, Toko like screeching over Master in the class, and Junko doing the Mukuro doing the same for Junko.
Based, but yeah, nonetheless,
That is actually
yeah.
actually one. To stop for a second, that was one other weird thing about the game's like ending trial.
What?
Because they go into like the whole thing about Jill remembering everything, right?
Yeah.
But
Or
the
at least
second
she doesn't
sees...
remember everything, but she
No,
remembers.
she does.
No, because there are things, because they don't share memories, so there's a lot of things that Toko lived through that Jill did. So it's kind of it's iffy.
But one of the photos showed that Jill was at least familiar with the class, and we know she was because she had nicknames for the fuckers that died.
Sure.
But the moment she sees Junko, she questions like, "Who the hell are you?" So it's like, why don't you know who Junko is?
I think
we're talking about you because you remember everything.
I think part of that comes from the perspective that, like, the Junko... Because that was, like, full mask-off Junko, so I think it was kind of partially came from that. Whereas, like, even if she looked like Junko, like, that clearly wasn't the Junko she knew.
Maybe? It wasn't really framed like that.
No.
It was just like, whoa,
it wasn't.
I've never seen
no,
you before.
I know the scene. I know the scene.
But you have seen her before.
Potentially.
So it's like, seemed like just a glaring... Maybe that was a mistranslation, but it just seemed like a weird plot hole.
Could be. I don't necessarily... It could be a mistranslation. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily meant to be like a plot hole necessarily, though.
It's just so glaring because that whole scene is about her knowing and remembering everything, and it's like she just doesn't remember her own classmate.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
So stupid. Anyway, let's keep going.
I feel fairly confident that makes sense in whatever way it's supposed to make sense. But nonetheless, that's right. It has nothing to do with me. Without thinking, I begin to speak. It's not like I know anything about you or Junko and Oshima. That sort of thing doesn't have anything to do with me. Realizing what I had just...
Go right ahead.
Realizing,
as long as I get Matsuda, I could not care less.
Realizing what I had just said, I quickly apologized. I'm sorry. At that moment, Ikusaba's face turned pale. I'm sorry. Growing more and more flustered, I began bowing my head as well.
You don't need to apologize that much.
I'm sorry. Even so, I continued to apologize to the point where Ikusaba seemed to feel bad, and then... I realized how exhausted I was. Putting all that had happened aside, I was tired. Tired from the confrontation of the Madarai's, the conversation with Ikusaba about Junko and Oshima. And above all, I just wanted to see Matsuda. That's right, I want to see Matsuda. Hey, it's okay if I leave now, right? With eagerness immediately and fully blowing my tiredness away, I felt it was time to leave. And so without waiting for an answer, I said goodbye. Anyway, thanks for helping me. I'll be leaving now. With just those words, I started running off and...
Oh wait, I still haven't told you the whereabouts of Yatsukai Matsuda.
Immediately breaking to a stop, I turned around and faced Ikusaba as she spoke.
If you don't know where he is, you probably won't be able to see him.
How do you know where Matsuda is? I immediately ran back up to her. More importantly, if you know, then please tell me. But as I approached her, I found myself taken aback. Ikusaba's face was radically different from before. A grim, stern expression as though she were a sniper in a battlefield, aiming at her target.
I don't like things to have to go this direction after getting along so well. But this is part of the scenario, so I have no choice.
That's the other thing that, like, that's actually a cool line too, because it shows that there's hints of normality in Mukuro. Like, again, it's showing, which we also see in DR1, especially in the...
They're kind of doing the similar thing with Junko in that she has multiple faces, but they're just not as expressive as Junko.
Sure, but I think it's also part of the idea of, like, we see these hints of, like, Mukuro being, like, you know, because, like, in DR1, for example, in the FTEs, we see that, like, she seems to genuinely, like, you can genuinely bond with her in the Junko FTEs. And I think this is kind of a little thing of like I kind of like Mukuro kind of being like I actually kind of like her a little bit, you know, Ryoko that is. So it's kind of that same vein of like because she's not Junko, like she's still like a despair and clearly psychotic.
She's got a sense of
but she's not
normalcy to her.
Junko, right? So like if you're Junko is literally despair incarnate, so there's but like with Mukuro and presumably other despairs, there's at least hints of that humanity that Junko just doesn't have. But anyways, I think that's cool.
But
after murmuring,
it's for her cute little sister.
oh yeah,
so
she's gonna do what
cares?
she's gonna do. Yeah. After murmuring with sadness as if about to cry, she directed a freezing glaze toward me.
In order for me to tell you Yatsuki Matsuda's whereabouts, an exchange is required.
Exchange? Ikusaba pointed toward the Madorais laying on the ground and spoke in a low voice.
Those people laying over there still don't know about the last remaining member of the student council. The student council president being murdered. I'm sure they found out. I'm sure if they found out, they would fall into despair. Despair strong enough to push them to the point of even dying for the sake of revenge.
What are you saying? My voice was tense. I had an idea of what she was talking about, but I didn't want to say it.
If you leave them be, I'm sure they would go and kill Yatsuki Matsuda.
Oh, is she trying to bait Ryoko into killing them?
Of course.
Ah, so good. Kill, 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 kill. The words soon began to spin round in my head. Why does Matsuda need to die? The student council president's murder has nothing to do with him.
That's not true. It has very much to do with him.
Ikusaba shook her head.
Because Yatsuki Matsuda murdered the student council president.
Yeah, Mukuro is aware as well, which obviously means Junko is, and, you know, that's pretty obvious based on their conversation earlier, but nonetheless. Murdered.
That's what I said.
Yes.
That's why we'll make an exchange.
As she spoke, she took something out of her pocket and tossed it to my feet.
Work hard, for his sake. If you really love Yatsuki Matsuda, then you'll do your best for him.
I dropped my eyes to my feet. Sitting on the damp ground was a knife with Hope's Peak Academy's crest engraved onto it. The moment I laid eyes on it, my heart began beating with an amount of blood intense enough to break a vessel.
They're so up their own arse they even engraved their knives.
I wonder if it might be specially made for Mukuro, because I could imagine like the ultimate soldier that's going to their school. I could imagine them making her a special
maybe.
knife.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like Hope's Peak is like wild, so like I don't think they'd even like
I feel like you could have done a nudge to that in the first game with like the knife that was part of Chapter 5.
Maybe. I don't know. But either way, I definitely think
I'm not saying this is like a Bowie knife or anything, but
I mean, also to be fair, who knows what's gonna happen to this knife in this story.
oh, a lot is gonna happen to this.
So yeah. But yeah, anyways,
to seize hope for both him and yourself, you must work your hardest.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's like you're staining yourself in despair in the name of hope. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be expected to kill. You can't be serious, right?
I'm entirely serious. You will overcome Hope's Peak Academy here and now. With the sacrifices of the Madoras, you will obtain true hope. I said the Matsudas, the Madorais.
Yeah, it ended up kind of being in between Madorai and Matsuda, but yeah.
With the sacrifices of the Madorais, you will obtain true hope. That is the scenario Junko and Ashima has assigned to you.
Yeah, you're supposed to be the hero that overcomes. That's the role that has been given to you by Junko. Interesting.
And you will obey, sock puppet.
That's so good. You will overcome Hope's Peak Academy is also an interesting way to put it. What is this? The scenario Junko and Oshima assigned? Why? Why am I forced to do that? I love how, because we played the first game and we've seen the reveal that Junko more or less planned out everything, like, not just the killing game, but how it went. I love how it's like DR0, it's just literally the same thing, where it's like Junko is like, yeah, we're just seeing, like, yeah, this pretty much this whole story is going exactly as, literally, like, the word that she keeps using, literally scripted, is the word that Mukuro keeps using, so that's crazy.
Yep.
Why am I forced to do this? The severe confusion began to feel like a fever. I found myself struck with immense dizziness and a ringing in my ears. Why? At that point, I realized I was gazing up at the sky. Thick, gray clouds began to gather, making it seem as though this damp, gloomy garden was caught in the dark of night. As I stared blankly at the sky above, I could feel the black, helpless emotions inside of me, bubbling up like a toxic sludge from underground sewers, and then drying up like dead grass. I stopped and thought with my hazy head. This is despair. To overcome this despair and seize hope. Whose voice was that? Was it mine? Ikusaba's? Or was it... But it already had nothing to do with me. Suddenly...
Oh, will you stop it? You're making such progress.
So good. Oh, the writing is so good. I have so much to say when we get to the end of this. The game, I mean, not this chapter, but a game, fucking book. Next episode.
Of course.
It instinctually, it happens.
The final conclusion.
But it already had nothing to do with me. Suddenly, I reached out my hand toward the silver knife, and then, in a trance, I wielded it as if to slice away the dark fog of despair. As I did so, I felt the texture of flesh. Past the edge of the shining knife and into the motorized bodies, I could feel the blade stabbing all the way through skin and muscle, the fresh blood spurting out, the cries of death. Goosebumps spread across my skin, and I instantly felt the pain of my stomach's insides knotting together. Despite that, I stabbed. Overcome despair, for the sake of seizing hope for Matsuda and I stabbed and 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 stabbed. I could hear my screams coming from far away. There it is again, disassociation. I could hear my screams coming from far away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good. Screams from my broken heart. Ah! That's actually kind of creepy because it's like it's like a scream that almost turns into a laugh.
And those are the best ones. That utter terrifying scream of insanity inducing.
And then it was then that I returned to myself. And there you go. So the disassociation ended. And then, as if to shake off the delusions floating up into my head, I screamed once again. I can't do it! My hand was frozen in its reach toward the knife. All the while, my head pounded from fear of the vision that I had just experienced.
What? You didn't do it, you pussy.
Okay, so she really is having delusions. I have no reason to do this. At that moment, I heard the puzzled voice of Ikusaba coming from above.
You know that if you don't overcome despair here, you won't be able to seize hope, right?
I can't do that. Hope and despair, that's just what you or Junko and Oshima have been talking about, right? It has nothing to do with me. My throat began, that's the thing, right? Because, that's kind of the funny thing, and I feel like DR1 didn't go too deep into that, but the idea, hope and despair are just bullshit words that we just keep using. They're just buzzwords. They don't really mean anything. They represent other ideas in Danganronpa, but at their core, they're just words. And I think that's something that's kind of funny about DR1, because Danganronpa in general is so obsessed with those words that I think it kind of hides kind of some of the deeper stuff that's going on. But, that's for future discussions, maybe. My throat began to burn from screaming so much, and tears and snot mixed together as I crouched down on the ground. Help me, Matsuda. As if pleading, I continued to cry. Clutching my head, I continued to shamelessly, pathetically cry. Help me. Help me, Matsuda. Matsuda, Matsuda, Matsuda. Then, an even more puzzled voice came from Ikusaba.
I don't really know what to do in these kinds of situations, but anyway, I'll tell you what Yatsuki Matsuda is.
Wow! She just
Nice.
failed. We just beat Mukuro. Let's go!
Fuck.
Huh? In surprise, I lifted my head up. Huh? Ikusaba seemed surprised as well, probably because my face was so unsightly from crying. You'll tell me?
Well, if things end like this, Junko will get mad at me.
Are you sure you don't want that to happen? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm not kidding.
That's a despair even I'm not ready for.
Fair. Hearing that, I wiped my face with the sleeves of my uniform and rose onto my feet once more. I then slapped my cheeks to focus and faced Ikusaba with the important question. Then, tell me, where is Matsuda? Ikusaba responded in a light tone.
Yatsuki Matsuda is at the old school building.
Okay. Once again, the intense itching sensation attacked my head. Old school building. It felt like I heard those words not too long ago somewhere, but there was no time to be dealing with that itchiness right now. Got it. So if I go to the old school building, I'll meet Matsuda, right?
Yes, that is where the climax is planned to take place.
It's perfect.
On the nose. Very on the nose.
Like I said, the cutoff point is perfect here, too. Like, I know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, she keeps talking about how Juko scripted everything, so it makes sense that she would say the climax. I'm gonna wait to comment on on this until the end, because I feel like we have to be close to the end of the chapter. I'm able to meet Matsuda.
This chapter needs to end already.
With that thought in mind, a mysterious power seemed to well up from deep within me. My screaming and shouting and falling into despair from before seemed like it had just been a lie. I felt myself brimming with energy. This is hope. Oh, they always shine brightest before they fall into the darkest pit. Thanks, I should get going then.
You need to feel as much hope as possible before the climax.
Exactly.
Just to watch and crush your heart into the fiery pit of failure.
Hey, nice. Nice. I like that reference. I then
They'd
bowed my
get along
head.
very well.
Oh, yeah, they would. They really would. I then bowed my head to... Oh, yeah. I mean, that's definitely where Juko ended up, probably.
You thought he was strong when he went to hell.
Yikes.
Holy
yeah, I can't.
fuck.
Yeah, I can't even. Don't even want to think about that. I mean, I do, but I had no reason to bow toward the sister of the horrible Junko Enoshima, who was assisting her in her messed up plan. But maybe this was the power of hope as well.
All right. Good luck then. I'll take care of cleaning up what's left here. In other words, you're not going to see me again after this chapter.
Ikusaba said softly while looking around at the Madarais laying at her feet.
After I clean this up, I'll go and help Kirigiri, then remove her from the scenario, and everything will go along, just like Junko planned. So leave the rest to me. What do you mean by remove her from the scenario?
I mean, it obviously doesn't mean kill her, but...
I know, but what do you mean exactly?
I'd love to know as well. I love how she's just telling all of this to fucking Ryuko, by the way.
It's because we've basically locked in the final ending now.
Yep, yeah. It's so good. I love how even though this is a book and not a visual novel, they're playing into like kind of the memes of like visual novels, which is ironic because Danganronpa is a linear visual novel. Anyways. Which even further leans into the idea of a lack of, like control or will. You know what I mean? I was tired of hearing her talk repeatedly about the scenario toward the end of our conversation, and so with a quick bye, I immediately ran off. But as soon as I dashed off, I suddenly noticed something. Still running, I turned my head and saw Ikusaba absent-mindedly standing still. Lying around her were those 4 Madarais, but I felt like there was something missing, though I couldn't remember what. Either way, it wasn't the time to think about something like that. I think I know what's missing. And so I continued to run straight ahead.
What is missing?
My guess would be the knife.
You think?
Yeah, I think Ryoko took the knife and doesn't even realize it.
Fuck.
I mean, you're playing it. I mean, you have the theory that she's gonna kill Matsuda. She has to. That could be the weapon of choice. That's right.
God, it better not be an accident.
That's right. I don't have the time to be turning around. Oh my god, that just gave me the second you said that. I put together knife. I thought about everything. That just reminded me of a different series, and I think you might know which one I'm talking about.
Interesting.
That's what I'll leave it at. I was heading towards Hope Peak's old school building in the North District. Even without looking at Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook, the path toward my destination somehow appeared in my mind. Everything in me was troubled to the point where I wasn't sure I could handle it. But if it's to meet Matsuda, then it will all be okay. I'll be able to get rid of this uneasiness. Because if I meet Matsuda, everything will turn back to normal. My head will become normal again, and then I'll be able to return to those peaceful days with Matsuda. Whatever there may be, whatever may happen, I'll return to those peaceful days of receiving treatment from Matsuda. That is my ideal happy ending. What I was heading for wasn't the old school building. It was towards that happy ending. And in order to get to that happy ending, I ran as fast as I could. And that is our final cutoff point for Danganronpa
Girl,
0.
You are so far off that pathway at this point, like it's actually just kind of sad.
So I do want to say this climax is actually kind of cooking, because if you in case you forgot, we found out at the beginning of this episode that Izuru Kamakura is in the old school building. And now at the end of this episode, we find out that Yasuke Matsuda is in the old school building, and I would assume that we're going to get... So it sounds like we're probably... Because I would assume that the mistress goddess of despair herself is probably also going to make an appearance. So this final climax is probably going to involve Ryoko, Junko, Matsuda, and our mystery Izuru, all in one place.
I said all the pieces have connected together quite nicely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they cooked. And also 83%. So we have... So that's actually the cool thing. This episode actually covered 17% of the story.
That's pretty cool.
And the next episode, we have 17% left. So theoretically, it'll be a similar length, but
that's kind of weird, because if we don't see Kyoko, like, why do I keep saying that? If we don't see Kyoko again, we're probably not going to see Jin again.
I think it's just going to be those four. I think we're going to have
anticlimactic for his ending.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like we have a decent idea of what happens based on DR1 for some of these characters. And like that's the thing, right? Because like it seems like the climax we're going to get is going to involve characters that are original to Zero, and Ryoko, Matsuda, Izuru is going to come up to some degree, and then potentially Junko, maybe Mukuro, but it sounds like Mukuro's not written, not scripted to be in this climax, seemingly.
I'm curious if, because obviously Mr. Monokuma is the mascot. He was introduced in this story at this point. I feel strongly about the final scene of this story being Monokuma based, because I feel like he's going to get that for every game and story.
I could see that happening. It'll be interesting though, because yeah, we've introduced Monokuma just as like the mask. It's interesting too because Monokuma is, and I get like Monokuma is the mascot for the series, but like it is interesting that Monokuma's in the cover, given the fact that like Monokuma directly has only been involved as a mask recently in this episode.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. But obviously this is, I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. But yeah, are you excited for the finale of Danganronpa 0? We've set the stage. It's all, I mean, technically we have like 7 chapters left or whatever, but it's going to be one episode, and it's all been building to this.
Oh, of course. I'm very excited. I'm very curious to see where this, situation takes us, and why these combinations of characters who probably, we'll never see again, where their story ends, because theoretically, every single character included in this finale is presumably already dead in the main timeline.
Presumably. I mean, you think that's the case with Ryoko?
I think it's the case with one of them for certain. Both of
Yeah, but
them, I'm not too sure.
You've been leaning on Matsuda dying. You feel pretty good about that.
I do feel pretty good about that. Do
It's
you
going to be
feel pretty good
interesting.
about that?
I definitely think there's a good chance. It's interesting, right? Because we haven't gotten into the whole like mind thing, and like there's a heavy implication that Matsuda was directly involved in messing with Ryoko's mind. And
Almost for certain.
That will likely come up in this climax if that was the case, and how she's going to react to that, how that whole thing's going to happen, how that's even going to come out. Like, is he going to admit it to her? Is it going to just be Junko telling her, like, that whole thing? Again, how does Izuru, like, the Phantom in the Mist, how does Izuru play into this? That's, like, probably the biggest question mark. This Izuru, that they have built up this Izuru as, like, I mean, like I said, like, they have built him up like crazy.
And we have had confirmation from a student council or the old guy that
steering
it is
committee
a person.
member. Mm-hmm.
It is a person, and it is real, and it's a bloke.
Yep.
So this is not a figment. This is not a symbol or anything. This is a legit person that Junko has managed to, I guess, close around in.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
Not so ultimate, are you?
Well, it's not even necessarily that, but, like, that's the thing, right? So, like, it's really interesting because all of the characters that are meeting in this climax, you have Junko, who's the antagonist of DR1, and it's funny because I feel like everyone else that's going to be potentially in a room together is, like, potentially an antagonist of, like, some other content. Because, like, depending on who survives, if anyone survives this final encounter, depending on how it goes,
I guess there's the possibility that one of these two is the main villain for Danganronpa 2.
But I think it's also possible, I mean, it could also be Izuru.
True.
Like, the thing, what's interesting about Izuru is they're hiding Izuru. Like, they don't want us to know anything about Izuru, which could set Izuru up to be like a plot twist villain kind of thing. Depending on how they handle this ending with Izuru, especially.
And not even a villain for this story, but for the next one.
Sure, or that's the thing. It doesn't even have to be the next one. Like, we know there's more entries.
I don't know. That'd be kind of like, I'd get it, yeah, but I feel like it wouldn't be as much a debate on, like, if you do 0 or 2 first, because if you do Danganronpa 2 first, then you probably already know everything about Izuru anyway if he's the villain of the game. You won't get any like that mystery stuff because you know a substantial amount about him at that point, I would imagine.
Perhaps. I mean, that goes into the theories of what could be the reasons for why you would read this before or after 2. That gets all into the theories of what 2 could be about as well. Because that does imply... Because that's the thing, right? It implies some sort of... Even if it's thematic, it implies some sort of connection to Danganronpa 2 and Danganronpa 0. Even if it's just thematic. There's, like, something that ties them together, clearly. Otherwise, you would just, it wouldn't matter. Like, if there was no connection, then it just wouldn't matter. You could read it before or after, and there's, like, no... It just doesn't matter. If this is, like, completely separated from the rest of the Danganronpa canon, it wouldn't matter when you'd read it, outside of maybe, like, after the first game.
Yeah.
So that's, like, interesting to think about, too. But, yeah, I definitely think that, like, this final confrontation is going to be crazy. I know it is. But I'm, like, so excited for it.
It will be.
And there's, like, so much that we'll be able to talk about once we get to the ending. So I do want to hear... I'm going to kind of, like, do it. This is going to kind of be, like, a 2-part thing. This is going to be... I want to get your kind of final predictions now. And then once you've had, a little more time to think about it, I'm going to ask this again at the beginning of the next video. I want to kind of... So in case anything changes up. But I do kind of want to... if there's anything else you want to talk about this chapter or this episode in general, we can. But otherwise, I kind of want to hear what your, like, overall final predictions are on where you think this is going to go. Because while there is 7 chapters, more or less we kind of have a similar amount of length to. I mean, we have about, as far as just word count, we have about the same amount of words as we did in this episode left. So to say we're pretty close to the end because we did 17% and we have 17% left. So,
well,
we're
I don't know.
83% in.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go over like a brief refresh of this before we
Yeah.
get to that point.
I think that's worthy because I think like
So,
that'll be
I
the
might
beginning
actually
of the
just
beginning.
have-
Yeah, so you just give me kind of your basic thoughts right now, and then you could kind of give more of like an overall like big time like what your theories are at the beginning of next episode. But I do want to kind of get your final like theories at a point where like I feel like we're not like we're near the end, but we're not so close to like reveals to where they become obvious or anything either. You know what I mean?
I don't feel like it's very obvious at this point, but
Yeah, I know, but like sometimes like for example, right, like in Danganronpa 1, right? Like the Junko reveal, like when you get close to it, it becomes obvious. But only when you get when you get close to it. So it's like we're not close enough to where the reveals become too obvious.
Well, to be honest, I feel like you actually I feel like you could actually you could correctly predict that Junko is the main villain of the game by the 5th chapter.
I think you could correct. I think you could correctly predict most of the plot twists of this story from, I would say, at least a quarter of the way through the story.
And you're saying that because you did just that, right?
Potentially.
Motherfuckers bragging so much.
Oh my god, dude. My DR0 readings literally drove me insane. Like,
Nice.
DR2 did too. So, like, thankfully, DR0 seemed to not drive you insane, thankfully. But, yeah, I'll be very curious to see DR2 because DR2 is just such a mindfuck from the start in the best way. I'm so excited for you to get to that. We're so close. Oh,
I know.
It's just so peak,
It's been
though,
a long
because
time coming.
because I don't even, like, that's whatever, but this last episode is, like... I mean, to be fair, I'm really excited for you to get to the prologue of, like, DR2, because that's going to be insane. But, like, this last episode of DR0 is so insane that, like, well, I'm overall probably more excited for you to get to DR2, especially because that'll be a viewer experience, not an, for me, not an active experience. I will, this last episode, oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you to taste this ending. This ending is so good.
Yeah, I do wish we knew a little more about the timeline in this story compared to where it takes place in 1. I feel like that'd help a bit with the prediction stuff.
Sure.
I feel like this old building's gonna get burnt down.
I could see that happening. That seems very,
I mean, they
like,
kind of they
like
had
a
the
very
excuse
anime
of like
thing.
it's getting renovated anyway, which is just a front because Izuru's there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, they kind of threw me for a loop, honestly, confirming this is actually a person because no one seems to even know who this is.
This is like,
And
that's the thing. The steering committee
get
know.
how they do that.
The steering committee know. That's the thing, right? Like, Izuru is so weird in the context of this. Because it's like, this guy keeps coming up, and it's like, to what end? Like, what's the end game with Izuru? Like, that's the thing that's so weird. Like, to some extent, we could theorize end games for Ryuko and Matsuda. Like, you're leaning towards Matsuda's just straight up being death. But, you know, Ryuko's end game, either she's going to die and this is going to be Romeo and Juliet, because that might be, the ending might just be Romeo and Juliet, or it's going to be, like something along the lines where, again, Ryuko... Well, I mean, Ryuko's probably going to realize who she really is regardless. But how she reacts to that will likely dictate a lot about this story, this story's ending, and potentially future stories, because Ryuko is... all of these characters, Ryuko, Matsuda, and our mysterious Izuru, I feel like are all established in a way to be like huge loose ends if they don't die.
But
that's
is
the thing,
big
right?
hype going forward.
but that doesn't even necessarily mean DR2. Like, to be fair,
yeah, but
there's a lot
that'd
more
be on
stuff
your
than
mind
DR2.
all throughout DR2.
Yeah, it would be. And
And
I'm sure whatever ending we got was on the mind of Japanese players when they played DR2 after reading this.
Do say that these two games go hand in hand. So I mean,
You mean me?
Yes, you. So I mean,
yeah. I mean, to be fair, there is a Danganronpa 1+2 release.
I mean, like Danganronpa 1, Danganronpa 2, they're two outsides, and
yeah, if you want to
Danganronpa
think,
0 is
hey,
just the inside of that Oreo.
I was
cookie.
gonna say, if you want to, it's funny because I guess technically the two games in the anime are a trilogy, but if you wanted to think of 1, 0, and 2 as a trilogy, you kind of could. I feel like.
Yeah, but no one's reading this.
Yeah, that's the meme, right? Like only psychos like me, and then like me making you read this so you could get the greatness of Junko.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I can't believe her. Oh God, that next episode.
And then all that comes afterwards.
Yeah, I know. Like it's such a double. Like it's such a like win-win. Because, like, I'm so excited for the next episode. I mean, it's the thing that I've been obviously waiting for this whole time. Not that, obviously, the story... Okay, to be fair, that Junko scene will never get out of my head. But, really,
one?
all of them. Yeah, I was talking about the Matsuda one specifically, but all of them.
I thought you meant the Madurai one.
All of them.
All of them, yes.
But this is like that just glorious ending that's going to be so peak. And yeah, it just gets better from here for myself and for anyone else viewing this that is excited for the DR2 videos, of course, myself included. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I think you gonna stay relatively quiet there, unless as far as a prediction goes. I'm gonna expect legitimate predictions out of you at the beginning of the next episode, though.
Of course.
So you're gonna have to give me that, but I'll let you pass as far as predictions now. That's fine.
Fair enough. I will do a refresher to give a proper opinion. Or
Yeah,
a proper prediction.
I assume you'll
Whether
just go...
it's correct or not, I can't say, but
yeah, I'll see. Like I said, I assume
I'm gonna pull up some bullshit completely off, far more wacky than whatever the hell you said, but it'll be there.
That would be peak. If you could come up with something
something insane,
more
like
psychotic
Junko's
than me.
been Rukuro this entire time.
I mean, that I don't know who Rukuro is, but sounds about right.
Shut up.
So Junko is a fusion of Ryuko and Mukuro? Is that what you're saying?
Anything's possible.
It's Danganronpa.
With a
Anything is
polarization
possible.
card.
There's a joke to be made there, but you haven't seen all of GX, so.
Isn't it like a super polymerization card?
It involves that exact card, but I can't make the joke because it's actually
I know.
It's
It
actually
looks...
quite spoilerific.
It's got very strange artwork. It looks like lightning just like meshing into a ball or something. I don't know.
More or less.
I saw it the other day in a store. So
yeah. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can't make the joke because it's like a huge like spoilerific
I feel
thing.
like we need an ultimate polymerization for this one though.
I think there's a card called Ultra Polymerization. I don't think there's an
That'll
Ultimate
do.
Polymerization though. Yeah, it's close enough. Anyways, all that memes aside, I'm excited. I'm excited for the finale. I hope you are as well. But yeah, I'll if that's it, we can get out of here.
So one more video left, folks. And
Yep.
we will wrap up the mysteries of the tragedy of Hope's Peak and the story of Matsuda, Ryuko, and which one is the biggest simp for the other.
True. That's honestly a real question.
Incest is wincest.